Just your average day in South Korea. The sidewalks were packed, everyone completely spaced out in their own little bubbles. And right in the middle of that crowd? Yep, our main guy. Honestly, he was pretty cute. But dude was so glued to his screen, his posture was begging for a chiropractor. Staring at that screen meant he had zero situational awareness, so naturally, he slammed into a random guy who instantly started dropping F-bombs. Totally fair, honestly. Our boy mumbled a quick sorry like a kicked puppy, basically summing up his whole vibe. Just living a super dull reality, secretly whining about how insanely boring everything was. Suddenly, an insanely loud boom froze everyone in their tracks. Before anyone could even blink, a second blast dropped. A massive strike of bright yellow lightning crashed down right down the street, literally vaporizing a bunch of random pedestrians. The whole crowd totally froze in pure shock. The shockwave actually chucked cars around like cheap toys, making a horrible scene way worse. Then the sky just started spamming lightning everywhere. And this definitely was not normal weather. They hit like literal tiny meteors. Everyone scattered, sprinting for their lives, because duh, they actually were. What started weird quickly turned into a straight-up apocalyptic storm, entirely wiping out the city. Just one single strike did insane amounts of damage, and now multiply that by 10,000. Our guy was frantically running for his life right alongside everyone else. He noticed a girl nearby dodging the mess, and finally saw a chance to do something heroic. Yelling at her to follow him, he tried playing the savior. Turns out, she had a better exit strategy. An ambulance drifted right up to her. Looks like she scored a ride and was totally safe. Well, dark plot twist here, she definitely was never going to run again. Seeing that messed him up so bad, he kept running, literally bawling his eyes out from pure, unfiltered panic. But wait, it gets worse. A massive semi-truck was speeding right at him, ready to isekai him violently. Just seconds before he became literal roadkill, something completely insane actually happened. A blinding white flash washed over everything, and he felt himself getting sucked right into a swirling vortex. Cut to somewhere totally different, deep into the night, that same crazy yellow lightning crashed down. Who knows how long it had been, but hey, bro survived. He woke up super dizzy, the memory of that truck still playing on a terrifying loop in his head. But his brain immediately snapped to how absolutely weird his brand new surroundings were. He had zero clue what part of the world he was in. Glancing up, he saw something literally impossible. The birds flying around looked like actual nightmare demons, and 2 freaking moons were glowing in the sky. Definitely not South Korea anymore. That fact honestly hit him way harder than the lightning did. To make things worse, he was completely freezing, like an intense, shivering cold right down to his literal bones. One thing was super obvious. This creepy spot was not Earth. Looking around only made his brain hurt more. Creepy monsters were literally everywhere. He was totally confused, but an even bigger problem popped into his head. Why exactly was he butt naked? Right after that awkward reality check, he scrambled up, only to get completely jump-scared by a massive bear. Before he could even flinch, a whole pack of wild wolves ambushed the beast. Fast forward randomly to a clinic, where some doctor is seriously staring at a chart. The doc was baffled how this kid survived waking up on a twin moon monster planet and somehow returned. Our guy, though, was looking incredibly stressed out and totally on edge about something else. Flashback time. The huge bear totally got wrecked, and the wolves immediately started feasting on its remains. Watching that gory mess left him feeling super hopeless, totally clueless that a white wolf was sneaking up behind him. He suddenly felt the creepy vibe, panicked, and just completely booked it out of there. He pushed past his limits, sprinting way harder than he ever had in his entire life. Right as his lungs gave out, a weird system pop-up told him his constitution stat hit level 1. This plot twist completely messed with his head. Distracted, he tripped over some rubble, tumbled down an incline, and literally plunged off a drop. By some absolute miracle, he snagged a bunch of weeds just in time, totally dodging a game over screen. Hanging on for dear life, his brain kept looping back to that super weird noise from before. Glancing around, he spotted random berries popping up nearby. His stomach was screaming, but he debated if they were toxic. He got his answer instantly after catching a bug squad going to town on the exact same snack. Zero hesitation, he just started inhaling them. Suddenly, the leaves right next to him started shaking. Something dead stared at him. A massive serpent struck, but plot twist, a humongous toad just gulped it down in one bite. The dude just sat there watching this brutal nature documentary unfold, completely mind-blown. This zone was absolutely unhinged. Honestly, maybe he was just straight up hallucinating at this point. Fast forward, and he had been stuck in this bizarre dimension for 67 whole days. That exact canine squad who jumped the grizzly kept stalking him like crazy. He was terrified of getting jump scared by them. Since these woods hid worse nightmares, finding a solid base camp was goal number 1. Cut to 1 full trip around the sun since he first got shipwrecked out here. Looking up, he yanked down this ginormous yellow fruit. Suddenly, his interface dinged, confirming his power stat bumped to rank 1. Grinding for 12 months seriously buffed him up. Dude was looking totally shredded now. Dodging death 24/7 in this brutal biome basically forced his body to level up. This one tiny cub got super obsessed and kept tailing him. Honestly, he got so used to the little guy, it felt weird whenever he vanished. Out of the blue, he sensed a massive shadow dropping. Glancing up, he spotted a hulking ape dive-bombing him. The smile wiped right off his face. Moving like a ninja, he totally sidestepped the smash, but completely wrecked his wooden perch doing it. He whispered that the big guy needed to try harder. The beast hit the dirt hard, but its crash path sent it flying right into the tiny canine, crushing it. Watching from afar, our guy saw the ape shake it off and immediately rush the wounded cub for round 2. Not even thinking, our boy leaped in and went straight for the beast's eyeball. That strike barely fazed the brute, who just smacked him aside, launching him headfirst into timber. As the freakish thing rushed again, the super annoyed teen internally roasted himself for playing hero. Flashing forward, the doc asked if he actually pulled that off. The kid shrugged, saying you can't dodge turf wars eternally. It was basically pointless anyway, since every single zone out there had an apex boss. Back in the jungle flashback, the ape was ready to end him, but that badly beaten baby cub blocked the hit. Our guy totally blacked out right as the whole canine squad swarmed the giant monkey. He woke up thinking he was toast, but surprisingly, the beasts left him completely alone. They actually knew he tried rescuing the little guy. Plot twist, that tiny furball was literally the prince of the terrifying Red Pack. A bit later, the whole gang was sprinting through the area, with our dude jogging right alongside. He was officially one of the boys now. Seeing his furry bestie lagging, he scooped the little guy up for a ride. 2 whole years down in this dimension, and he was completely locked in as part of the animal family. Fast forward to year 3, and he was out there grinding his parkour moves. Even though he was stuck in this infinite green maze with 0 humans, he fully owned his feral identity, throwing down in turf wars to keep his pack alive. A wild 120 years flashed by, leading him to legit think he was the last person on Earth. Through all that hardcore daily grinding to stay breathing, he bonded with a bunch of random wildlife. But yeah, he definitely watched a lot of homies pass away too. His internal clock was completely busted, dates meant nothing, feeling like millennia. Honestly, he couldn't figure out why he hadn't died. Hearing this crazy lore, the medic asked if he seriously ruled as Alpha for 500 years without bumping into a single city. Everyone was super hyped to figure out how he actually pulled off escaping homeward. The teen broke it down, explaining how he literally sparked a massive turf war against the apes to conquer Moon Peak. An absolute bloodbath kicked off, and our hero was right in the mosh pit, rushing a primate. But mid-brawl, things got super weird. Bam, teleported again. He blinked, and his surroundings had totally flipped. Cut to a futuristic lab where a girl was deeply scanning a comms device, freaking out over dimensional stats going totally viral. A coworker yelled to ping the portal crew, so she instantly shared the location. A massive rift tore open right there, sending the whole room into total panic mode. Boom! A crazy blast wiped everyone off their feet. Nobody could believe a literal wormhole just spawned. A guy started screaming about not wanting to be unalived, while the girl geared up to fight, promising to hold the line. He screamed into his mic for backup right away. Meanwhile, the rift locked into place dead ahead of the girl. She dared whatever was lurking inside to step up, swearing she would slice it into absolute ribbons. Some dude's shadow stepped out of the cosmic blender, leaving her totally shook and glued to the floor. The guy ripped out this insane, beastly roar the second he cleared the rift. She tiptoed toward our main guy, while her coworker just stared, mind blown that it was actually a human. She was still vibrating from his crazy aura. It was a totally crushing vibe she had not felt against even top-tier boss mobs. She honestly had to ask herself what kind of freak he actually was. They sized things up fast, figuring out he was a portal jumper. Medics got dialed in instantly. Fast forward to the doc giving the kid massive props for playing along. He let him know his story, and lab tests were getting bumped up to the superhuman headquarters. Plus his health was totally greenlit, so he would be free to bounce in a couple days. Our guy stopped the doc, admitting this was his first normal chat after basically a millennium of madness. He gave thanks for sitting through his massive lore dump. The doc brushed it off, saying his intel was straight gold. And with that, he dipped. Strolling down the corridor, the doc could not get over how wild this kid was. The guy's storytelling was so insanely high def, he could have easily written an absolute bestseller. Cut back to Superhuman headquarters, where our portal girl was heavily side-eyeing her fresh intel briefing. The math was not mathing. A coworker asked what was up, and she flagged that the kid's profile pegged him as pure F-rank trash tier. The guy shrugged it off, explaining that F-rank jumper cases were just super weird anomalies. He felt bad though, since hitting even E-rank would have scored the kid some sweet government welfare checks. She stared at his profile, totally lost. Being F-rank basically meant he was just an everyday ordinary dude. How the heck did a total normie survive a rift jump? She pressed if it was a glitch. He dismissed it, claiming the kid just got insanely lucky, snagging a warp stone by sheer random chance. Then he tapped the fresh medical drop and asked if she wanted to peek at his stats. She skimmed the file, which flagged a super basic syndrome found in low-tier dimension hoppers. It also claimed he was acting straight up like a feral wolf. Thinking back to his savage game face at the rift, she debated if she was just tripping. She checked if this file belonged to the jumper named Park. He gave a nod, pointing out that despite his absolute garbage stats, they still had to run the standard jumper protocols. She immediately called dibs on hand delivering his file. Confused, the dude asked why. She simply stated she needed to vibe check him in person. 14 days since his Earth drop after a fake millennium in that fantasy realm, and the itch to go back was intensely real. But stuck in the modern world, everything felt super glitchy and weird. He had zero clue how to actually function as a human again. A nurse popped in, dropping off his grub. Starving, he basically inhaled the food the second it hit his lap. A hot minute later, Choi from headquarters showed up, just watching him devour his lunch like an absolute animal. Park clocked her lurking. She dropped her name, claiming she was Choi with the superhuman squad. Jumping up, Park sniffed the air, claiming she smelled exactly like some blonde chick he used to know back in the day. Choi clapped back that she was literally his welcome committee when he first jumped through. Internally, she sweated over how beastly he looked, exiting the gate, questioning if her radar was just totally broken. Wiping his plate clean, Park hyped up the food before asking what a superhuman headquarters even did. Shocked, Choi demanded to know why he was casually talking to her like some random bro. Park casually dropped that he was pushing 1,000 years old. She totally bought none of it. She broke down how their agency basically rehabs dimension jumpers back into normal everyday life. Slapping down a massive survival guide, she told him to skim it later. His only homework right now was signing an info release waiver. Grabbing the pen, Park joked about how forever it felt since he last held something so basic. A whole millennium later and humanity was still rocking ink and paper? Hilarious. He scribbled his signature anyway. Choi stared, low-key convinced the guy was completely clueless. She snagged his attention, and he basically went, "What now?" She sarcastically asked if his alternate dimension taught him basic sketching. He snapped back that he already had those skills. Pushing harder, she demanded to know if he picked up any cool stuff like spellcasting or combat. Nope, Park admitted. He basically played hardcore survival mode in a forest. Choi scoffed, assuming he just spent 10 years running away. She broke it down. Pulling off a legit dimension hop through those gates meant slaying beasts and soaking up their otherworldly vibes. To her, making it out of that nightmare zone and stumbling on a warp stone was pure, dumb luck. Park clapped back that his trip took a whole millennium, not 10 measly years. Getting annoyed, Choi bluntly told him his math was completely trash. She pointed at his file, proving he vanished in 2015 and just popped back up in 2025. Staring at the hard proof, his jaw totally dropped. She just shoved his shiny new superhuman ID into his hands. Walking off, she threw over her shoulder that they were docking his pay for the stuff he wrecked, so he better ask accounting. Her parting advice was to hit up his relatives the second he healed up. Choi dipped, leaving Park completely stuck in his own head. Were his parents even still breathing? Back in the wild dimension, he figured his entire earthly crew had kicked the bucket ages ago. Plus, he was currently grieving the squad he ran with for 1,000 years over there. But plot twist, he was totally wrong about the timeline. Scanning the paperwork closer, a massive reality check hit him. His mom and dad actually passed away the exact day he vanished. However, there was one tiny silver lining. His little bro Juno was still kicking. Panicking, Park practically bolted out of his hospital room to hunt down the physician. The doc asked what the panic was about. Park spilled that his brother survived and begged for help tracking him down. The guy totally paused, claiming Park wasn't mentally fit for the real world yet and needed a psych check. Losing all patience, Park snapped that the guy just didn't get it. This was definitely not a request. Catching his drift, the physician finally caved and gave a quick hand signal. But he threw in one massive catch. Cut to Park sitting in a ride, hyping up the doc and swearing he'd pay him back. The physician just promised they'd talk soon. Right before they rolled out, he warned the driver to keep Park safe since he was still pretty banged up. Watching them leave, the assistant was totally baffled by his kindness, covering medical bills, buying a fresh fit, and grabbing a personal chauffeur. She straight up asked why he was going so incredibly out of his way, considering the government usually leaves dimension jumpers on read. The physician just smirked, saying he wanted the tea on the guy's crazy past. Oh, and he casually mentioned needing maintenance to fix the busted handle immediately. Shook. The assistant suddenly flashed back to Park aggressively ripping the hardware straight off the hinges earlier. Chilling in his office later, the doc realized that handle got destroyed twice now. It felt like forever since he crossed paths with a total anomaly. Meanwhile, Park was just riding in the cab. The radio started blasting breaking news. At 3 in the afternoon, beasts breached a vulnerable local zone because someone completely fumbled the gate's stress math. Creeps were swarming the block right now, with military forces projecting a 50-minute wrap-up time. They shut down 2 waves already, but 12 superpowered troops had totally bit the dust. Park tuned in hard. His brain instantly replayed that super heavy chat he just had with the physician. The guy had hyped up how much society mutated after the apocalypse, turning Earth into an unrecognizable Wild West. He even joked about quitting his boring gig to farm beasts for insane cash if he had powers. Park had been clueless about the slang. Laughing it off, the doc roasted him for having amnesia, but Park demanded he actually spill the lore. 10 years back, random rifts just spawned globally. Everyone officially branded that nightmare the Great Disaster. The moment our reality collided with another dimension, all hell broke loose with a massive monster invasion. 10% of humanity vanished just like that. The military completely folded under the insane swarm of beasts popping up out of nowhere. Wherever the army fell short, guns for hire stepped up to fill the void. Those who vanished during the chaos returned as awakened, bagging official licenses to hunt. Naturally, Park wanted in on the action and asked how to sign up. The doc just cracked up, telling him it was basically impossible for an average Joe. First off, you gotta awaken your powers, then ace the exam at headquarters. Park just muttered that the whole process sounded like a massive headache. Fast forward a bit, and his cab finally rolled up to the drop-off spot. The cabbie pointed out the place matching the address. Park hopped out, tossing the guy a quick thanks. Right as he walked up, some old lady peeked out a window, demanding to know who he was. He casually said he was looking for Juno. She paused, then fired back that he acted super tough for a kid who looked like he still wore diapers. That definitely threw him off. She basically shooed him away, insisting nobody by that name even lived there. He started second-guessing the address until a loud argument broke out inside the place. Stepping closer to the entrance, he snagged a crumpled note right off the dirt. Looks like his older bro was drowning in debt. A while later, Park was strolling down the block, vibing with memories of his crazy jungle survival days. Out there, the strongest ruled everything. But in this supposedly civilized world, cash was definitely king. Pushing into the facility, he flashed his official awakened ID at the front desk. The receptionist hit him with a hard no, saying his exam application got tossed for not hitting the minimum stats. He demanded to know why, considering his F-rank status. She just pointed out his score was literally 4 points shy of the cutoff. He snapped back, bragging that he literally survived a portal jump just 2 weeks prior. She was having none of it, warning that normal dudes get instantly ripped in half doing that. There was no way she bought his wild story. She gave him 2 options: enroll in the Awakened Academy or go grind for points out in the combat zones. Basically, she told him to return once he leveled up for real. Storming out, Park decided the whole system was just toxic and overly complicated. Still, dropping the name of that goblin zone in Suwon totally grabbed his attention. Flagging down another cab, he asked the guy just how far those insane city barricades actually went. The driver said they wrapped the whole metro, telling him to check the map app. He asked if Park had it downloaded, noting the city was split into 12 sectors with hundreds of transit gates. Staring at the massive fortress, Park figured he better install that app right away. His stop popped into view as the driver called out Swan Field, Gate 27. Jumping out, he was immediately hit by the sheer scale of the massive military barricade. He figured strolling past those doors would drop him right into the action. He headed straight for the entrance, which was locked down by 2 heavily armed guards. They blocked his path instantly, demanding his business. He casually mentioned he was just there to hunt. One guard demanded his official badge. Park totally owned up to not having one on him. The guy bluntly stated that regular civilians were strictly banned. But right then, something caught their attention in the distance. The second guard screamed to lock down the exit, but it was way too late. A rogue car smashed right through the barrier, revealing some freakish beast totally munching on a dude inside. The wrecked ride smashed into concrete. One guard started screaming into his radio for backup to lock the freak down. The squad boxed in the wreckage, weapons hot. The second that monster crawled out, they unleashed absolute hell, lighting it up with bullets. The ugly thing dropped to the pavement, looking completely out of commission. Calling it in, the squad confirmed the threat was neutralized. One guy then noticed Park was missing, figuring the kid had bolted in total panic. Nope, not even close. Park was actually just chilling, strolling beyond the safety perimeter. Taking in the open wasteland, his boosted senses picked up literally everything. He casually thought about copping a ride for himself eventually. Scanning the totally wrecked scenery, he questioned if every other city outside of Seoul was basically wiped off the map. That was a pretty dark pill to swallow. As the sun dipped, Park muttered how this pitch-black vibe felt way too familiar. Creeping through the wreckage, he whispered that open season had officially started. Suddenly, he tripped, realizing his limbs felt weirdly sluggish. Glaring up at the busted skyscrapers, he totally snapped into action, sprinting at them with insane velocity. He completely bypassed gravity, scrambling to the rooftop in seconds. Posing up there against the glowing moon, straight up main character energy. He wasn't just soaking in the skyline, though. Shutting his eyes, he tuned into his crazy instincts to lock onto his next target. He whipped his head around and instantly picked a route to take. Scaling down the high-rise was a total breeze, matching his climb up. His kicks practically stuck to the concrete like magic. Strolling down those deserted blocks, he stumbled upon a super sketchy, pitch-black alleyway. Way in the back, this squad of monsters had a helpless dog completely trapped, fully planning to eat it. Literal saliva was pouring down their chins, but the poor pup absolutely refused to just roll over and give up. It scrapped back with everything it had left. Right on cue, our main guy stepped out of the dark. Staring at the hound, he sarcastically wondered out loud if it needed a hand. That sheer panic in the animal's stare totally screamed, yes. The freaks, though, were dead set on securing their dinner. Rushing the dude, they had no clue Park was actually smiling. Loving the thrill, he dashed right into the chaos, doing a crazy quick spin to smash the lead monster from the back. That hook hit so insanely hard, the freak's skull straight up caved deep into its own chest. Boom, instant knockout. Except, things immediately took an even weirder turn. A bunch of holographic screens suddenly glitched into his vision, spamming him with warning alerts. The guy was totally clueless about the pop-ups. The digital interface was basically claiming it utterly failed to process his combat moves. While he stood there trying to decode the glitch, the remaining beasts jumped at the chance to strike. That cocky energy vanished fast when he effortlessly one-shotted every single one of them. Watching its crew get completely wiped, the final surviving freak bolted. It frantically scaled a nearby wall, which ended up being a massively deadly move. Pausing on the roof to peek back at the absolute beast it was running from, it realized Park was already right there. Tossing it over the ledge, gravity finished the job. Once he landed safely, a fresh pop-up flashed, crying about a glitch showing his character stats. That totally sparked a flashback from like a century prior, back when he was sprinting through the woods without a stitch of clothing to survive. That exact moment was actually when his epic leveling journey officially kicked off. He legit questioned if this digital interface functioned back on his home planet. Plus, he strongly suspected these bugs were why he felt so insanely nerfed lately. Out of absolutely nowhere, a fresh screen loaded up, titled The Reward Store. Intrigued, he browsed the menu. With 7 credits banked, he actually had enough to buy a couple of things. Picking out some options, the stuff literally spawned out of thin air. But right before he could dig into his new snacks, a noise distracted him. The wounded hound from earlier was still around, except now it had a tiny newborn right beside it. Creeping closer, he gently rested his palm against the mother's fur, instantly sensing her fading fast. Relying on pure animal intuition, the creature felt safe enough to let go. Our hero, though, totally refused to accept that reality. Through just a look, she was basically begging him to watch over her baby. It instantly reminded him of the wolf pack he left behind in that alternate universe. Destiny was honestly giving him massive déjà vu. Grabbing a treat from his jacket, he held it out to the fading mother. Figuring she needed the calories way more than him, he fed her. Then, he got up and strolled toward the 7 dead monsters littering the pavement. Working through the pitch black, he honestly didn't wrap up his massive project until dawn cracked the sky. Digging a decent resting place for the brave mother, he stayed completely quiet for a minute to respect her totally badass sacrifice. Cut to Zone 27's gate. where the morning commute was an absolute nightmare. People were laying on their horns, stressed out of their minds in gridlock. All that racket instantly died down. The second, a dude walked up casually lugging multiple monster carcasses over his shoulder. Those dead freaks still gave off such bad vibes that everyone instinctively backed away. Selling off his epic loot, he totally banked over $10,000. Honestly, the actual flex was scoring those magical gems hidden inside the beasts. Without an active debit card, the guy basically had to take his massive payout in straight paper bills. Mind blown by the fat stack, he couldn't help but calculate his potential income if he actually started raiding portals for gems full-time. Across town, some guy had his rig idled outside a corner mart. He was catching up with a buddy indoors while grabbing some candy for his kid. Hopping back into the driver's seat, the dude was totally vibing. His shift was super chill, and he was hyped to finally relax at home. But that good mood vanished fast. Mid-walk, a voice suddenly shouted out for Juno Park. Out of absolutely nowhere, a savage right hook dropped him incredibly hard onto the concrete. Smirking down at him, the attacker joked about how much they missed him, heavily hinting at rumors that he was trying to ditch his kid and skip town. Staring up, he obviously recognized the thug. Right after, the rest of the squad jumped in to brutalize Juno Park's sibling. Laughing, they mocked how much healthier he looked nowadays, demanding to know why they constantly had to hunt him down like this. Desperate, Juno flashed a wad of cash, totally panicking while claiming it was his fresh paycheck. The guy flipped through the cash, complaining that with the $8,000 monthly fee plus $6,000 in interest, Juno was still short. Crying, Juno begged the dude for just 3 more days to scrape the rest of the cash together. The thug smacked him again, yelling about the crazy interest that would pile up in 3 days and calling him a total liar. Suddenly, a voice shouted Juno's name. The bully snapped back, asking who the heck was there. Juno froze. His supposedly dead brother was standing right there. Park walked over, casually asking if it was really him. A flashback hits. Little Juno getting totally ganged up on by bullies while a young Park just watched from far away. Little Juno had practically begged his big bro to save him, but Park straight up ghosted him. He totally left him hanging. Honestly, his brother was never really there for him anyway. The memory shifts to crazy news broadcasts about random explosions wrecking the country, with weird red portal spheres popping up everywhere. Freaking out over the TV reports, Juno sprinted straight to his mom's bedroom. His folks were super relieved he was safe, but stressed over his brother. Suddenly, boom, an explosion hit and actual monsters spawned. A massive eye stared right at Juno before vanishing. Snapping back to reality, Park smirked, teasing that his little brother had seriously grown up. Juno stammered that he thought Park was long gone. The thug cut in, asking if this random guy was actually his big bro. Out of nowhere, Park grabbed the bully by the face and tossed him backward with insane strength. Juno's jaw dropped as the dude literally went flying. The other 2 goons were totally paralyzed. Park asked if his brother was hurt, and Juno quickly swore he was fine. Out of nowhere, the other thug rushed Park. He took the hit, totally unfazed. The attacker's legs just snapped like twigs, sending him crashing to the dirt in absolute agony. The last goon was shaking like a leaf. Realizing Park was totally awakened, Park dared the guy to try his luck next. Sweating bullets, the guy swore he never laid a finger on Juno and practically begged for mercy. Park warned them to back off his brother, tossed the crying goon some cash, and told him to get lost. Later that evening, the old lady from the complex showed up. Park and Juno stood awkwardly right in front of her. She stared hard, asking Juno if he was totally sure this guy was family. Juno nodded, while Park sweetly called her grandma and flexed that he had brought over some fresh meat for them. She nagged that families really need to stick together, then shooed them inside because a little kiddo had passed out waiting for his dad. Inside, a tiny boy was fast asleep on the floor. Park pointed, asking Juno if the kid was his. Juno smiled, saying his name was Gung-Ho, his entire world. Curious, Park casually brought up the kid's mom. Juno sighed, explaining she bailed to do her own thing, totally blaming his own broke status for ruining their family. Trying to kill the awkward vibe, Park offered to crack open some drinks. Soon, they were chilling at the table. Juno admitted he honestly thought Park was a goner, yet here he was, looking literally ageless. Park ignored that and asked about his massive debt. Juno confessed it was around $220,000, but quickly swore he had the whole situation totally under control. He bragged about scoring a warehouse gig. Park raised an eyebrow, asking if the truck outside was actually his ride. Juno admitted it was just a rental. It originally belonged to the grandma's son, so he was paying her to use it. That made Park super curious about what the grandma's son actually did for a living. Totally dodging the question, Juno mentioned hearing Park died in the big disaster. Suddenly, Gung-ho woke up, completely freaking out over a cute dog. The kid spotted his dad right away. Juno, thrilled his boy was awake, pointed at Park and told him to greet his awesome uncle. Fast forward a bit, and the little dude was happily playing with the pup. Juno smiled, saying it was amazing seeing Gung-ho so hyped since he always wanted a pet. Park then randomly pitched that they team up. Super confused, Juno asked for details. Park promised he'd handle the heavy lifting and just needed truck access, making Juno wonder what his plan was. Park casually dropped that he wanted to go monster hunting, leaving Juno absolutely speechless. A while later, we cut to the Awakens Center, where a desk girl was totally hyping up our main guy. He actually pulled off registering as an awakened and somehow boosted his stats overnight. Park double-checked if he was officially an F-rank druid now. She nodded, explaining his new ID meant he could finally open a bank account and do all his money stuff legally. Sliding a little package across the desk, she called it a cute welcome gift for joining up. She reminded him to grab the Awaken Central app and farm dimensional energy for ranker status, unlocking sweet perks like pension money and benefits. Then she asked if he even knew how to pop open his status screen, warning him that some glitchy updates changed the whole layout. Park muttered the magic word, and boom, his stat window popped right up on the screen. Glancing over the numbers, he couldn't help but cringe at how completely pathetic they looked. Cut to his older brother cruising in a truck, totally hyped that Park finally scored a phone and hyping him up for officially becoming an awakened. He promised to swing by and meet up right after wrapping up his final drop-off for the day. Since Park was legit on paper now, crushing the Mercenary exam was the only thing left on the checklist. But Park shot back, insisting they needed to wipe out his massive debt before anything else. Juno clapped back, pointing out his trash F-rank status and how they definitely weren't ready for actual monster hunting. But Park just hung up, leaving Juno questioning if this dude was even his real brother anymore. He was acting like a totally different person. Strolling up to the spot, Park noticed the entrance was completely shut. Over on Route 77, a packed car was speeding down the road, totally panicking about missing out on their big match. The vibe was super tense, until one guy told the squad to chill out, flexing the fact that they were actually awakened. He asked if they seriously forgot that beating this dungeon meant scoring official guild raider status. Annoyed as hell, another dude in the crew secretly roasted his teammates for being absolute scrubs. They were purely chasing the bag and would have crashed and burned ages ago without some serious nepotism. A bit later, a guard yelled for the next up. He was totally shocked to see Park roll up again, asking if he was flying solo, which Park immediately confirmed. Park slapped his ID onto the scanner while the guard booted up his digital profile. The guy warned him about tier restrictions, spelling out that he couldn't just waltz into whatever raid he felt like. That dude from the speeding car kept his eyes glued to Park, watching him march straight into the danger zone completely solo. A second guard worried if the kid was going to survive, especially since his gear was basically non-existent. The first guard told him to relax, spilling the tea that this was the exact same beast who soloed 7 goblins over at Gate 27. Seething with pure envy, the guy in the ride scoffed, wondering who this kid thought he was stepping onto the battlefield looking like that. He straight up thought Park had lost his mind. Meanwhile, the guard said sorry for the holdup, blaming a glitchy system. Once cleared, the jealous dude told his buddy to step on the gas so they could tail Park's path. But he was left scratching his head when the teenager practically evaporated halfway through the dark tunnel. He tried guessing where the kid dashed off to, figuring Park must have stumbled onto something totally epic. Cut to a dense woods where Park was sprinting. Pausing to catch a breath, he realized just how trashed his physical shape actually was. Feeling utterly sluggish, he knew he had to get pumped and start grinding his workouts again. Creepy noises echoed nearby, sounding an awful lot like blades clashing. Spotting some movement ahead, he figured that was ground zero for the chaos. A devious smirk crept across his face. He figured a brawl between actual people instead of monsters was a golden ticket he absolutely couldn't pass up. The camera instantly snaps to a guy getting his arm sliced clean off. Perched above the chaos, Park watched the bloodbath with dead eyes. Down below, a crew was totally boxed in. Annoyed by the slow pacing, Park roasted them in his head, betting it would take all day for them to actually start dropping bodies. A shot caller hopped out of a ride, barking about why wiping out the cornered squad was taking forever. One of the grunts looked totally spooked seeing him. Pissed off, the boss ordered an immediate execution. Another dude whispered that their main target was rocking a fat $200,000 bounty. Eavesdropping on the chatter, Park's eyes went wide at the insane payout he could snag for taking that guy out. The grunt staring down the wanted man looked absolutely shook. The attackers finally seemed pumped to pull the trigger on their victims. The wanted guy totally owned the massive price tag on his head. practically daring the squad to step up and try catching him. His enemies looked completely rattled, second-guessing if they could even pull off a win while going full try-hard mode. Right as the guy rushed them, Park materialized out of nowhere, blazing straight for the armed goons. The targeted man was totally thrown off by Park dropping in, while the thugs freaked out over who this random kid could be. The guy demanded to know his deal. Park just casually asked if that massive reward was actually legit. After getting a yes, the guy asked again who the heck he was. Park just shrugged, calling himself a dude desperate for a fat stack of cash. The lackeys were scratching their heads over the kid's identity. Meanwhile, the wanted guy burst out laughing, roasting Park for poking his nose in where it didn't belong since he clearly wasn't corporate. Right then and there, Park felt a super weird paralysis creeping through his veins. The villain smugly revealed that staring into his eyes for over 5 seconds meant game over for moving a single muscle. He immediately commanded his lackeys to rush the kid, leaving Park staring down a literal wall of extremely sharp blades. Everyone freaked out when our guy moved freely again. Flashing a grin, Park asked if that was some kind of magic trick, totally fascinated. The attacker immediately fired off his locking skill a second time, freezing our hero dead in his tracks. Pulling out a blade, the guy bragged that catching him would not be easy since he was no weakling. He warned the dude that picking this fight was a huge mistake. Out of nowhere, Park unleashed a massive counterattack, leaving the shady guy visibly battered. Taunting him to show off more party tricks, Park delivered an absolutely brutal combo. The dude went flying backwards, completely knocked out. Yawning, Park called the whole fight a massive disappointment. The bystander watching it all go down realized this kid had to be ridiculously overpowered to crush an opponent that effortlessly. He seriously started questioning this mysterious guy's true identity. The remaining guards just stared at the teen in pure disbelief. When Park dared them to step up, they instantly backed off, wanting zero smoke. Our main character ordered the crew to stand in a specific corner and demanded some tying gear. A random goon awkwardly offered up his own supply. Next, our hero casually checked if any of these losers had cash rewards on their heads. Panicking, the squad swore they were broke and only followed the boss out of total fear. They promised handing over their leader would score him a massive payday anyway. Crying like a baby, the beaten boss was absolutely crushed by his crew's sudden backstabbing. They threw him right under the bus after everything he did. Meanwhile, Park just leaned in and asked if the guy was finally facing reality. His own squad started flaming him, calling him absolute garbage. Then, the teen wondered aloud if taking out the rest of the gang would score him extra loot. The wounded leader desperately snitched, exposing his followers as wanted felons who definitely carried their own fat rewards. Denying everything, the crew desperately painted themselves as completely harmless drifters. The busted boss yelled at Park, demanding to know why the kid ignored every single local rule like a total outlaw. Swearing this place was a lawless paradise, he promised to make Park crazy rich if he spared his life. Instead, Park simply stomped on him to shut the guy up. As the leader finally blacked out, Park turned around to verify if this whole crew was actually holding wanted tags. A bystander confirmed the majority of them were ex-convicts. Freaking out, one of the goons realized his luck had completely run out. Realizing hauling this entire crowd was impossible, Park hesitated, while his buddy hinted they should just ditch the losers right there. Our guy just smirked, deciding it was lights out for the whole squad. Fast forward a bit, we see a ride cruising down an empty highway. Sitting inside the vehicle, the kid stressed how desperately they required his backup and swore to return the huge favor. Our main character brushed off the debt completely, but the other dude pushed back, reminding everyone that Park was the sole reason they survived that mess. Giving in, Park mentioned they could actually help him out with one tiny request if they felt that guilty. Suddenly super curious, the squad started bombarding him with a million questions about his insane combat skills. The guy revealed his innate talent was using blades, while his tracking came straight from reading manuals. Mind blown, Park discovered magical talents were actually readable. Totally baffled, the dude could not believe Park had literally zero clue about ability manuals. Our hero realized snatching up a couple of battle spells through texts would be a massive advantage later on. Out of nowhere, something crazy caught his eye. A massive glowing energy field was lighting up the road ahead. He asked if they were staring at a gate. The teen nodded, explaining it was a super basic Tier 1 zone, making it their main destination. Sighing, Park felt super bummed out, knowing he could have joined the raid if he actually held a hunter permit. Jaw hitting the floor, the guy asked if Park was seriously operating without official papers. The teen simply nodded. The dude broke it down, explaining how the army always locks down the perimeter the second a gate pops up. Plus, any beasts wandering outside are basically just leftover trash mobs that dodge the first strike. Grinding in those beginner zones gives more than enough points for an E-class to level up easily. Honestly, jumping straight into Tier 2 areas is the better move. Still scratching his head, the guy could not comprehend how an absolute noob with zero gate experience completely bodied a seasoned C-class fighter. Catching the intense stare, Park bluntly asked why he was gawking. Quickly saying sorry, the dude nervously asked about Park's actual hunter tier. When Kim revealed it was F-class, the guy's brain basically short-circuited. Moving on, Park wondered what kind of reward he should demand. Suddenly, the view shifts back to that glowing gate, where a shadow steps out. The earlier guy was right there, and his whole raiding party looked seriously beat up from the zone. One of the younger members literally got his arm sliced off, meaning they desperately needed a medic as soon as possible. Super annoyed, the veteran muttered about how guilds were handing out official badges to absolute losers lately. He swore that firing the recruiter who hired these literal noobs would be his top priority upon returning. His teammate told him to chill out though, pointing out that roasting the new kids was totally unfair while their faction was already struggling. Still, the dude was totally salty. He figured rich kids could just buy their way into the academy and snag an awakening. Then their trust fund parents would absolutely pay off pro mercs to hard carry them through the zones. And boom, next thing you know, they're guild ready. But honestly, the real squad members always paid the price for carrying those dead weights. Seeing his boss about to pop a blood vessel, his sidekick pitched, grabbing some drinks to totally chill out. The captain shifted gears, asking for updates on the fading level 1 zone. He wanted to know if any crazy drama went down. One of the guards chimed in, saying things actually got super wild. Some absolute legend just dropped off 10 thugs, including a notorious C-rank boss. The captain was like, "Wait, were any top-tier elites visiting us today?" The guard shook his head, spilling the tea that some completely unlicensed F-rank newbie actually soloed the guy. Mind utterly blown, the captain demanded to know how on earth that worked out. The guard shrugged off the specifics, but word on the street was the F-rank literally just beat the dude to a pulp. Suddenly it clicked for the captain. It had to be that random kid from the tunnels. He instantly asked where the rookie went. The guard pointed out that the kid made a massive beeline straight for the warp gates. The boss bolted toward the gates, desperate to see this crazy power firsthand. If the hype was real, he could totally cash in on it. Seconds later, he practically threw himself into a truck. His buddy was super confused, asking what the massive rush was about. Sweating bullets, he asked if that absolute unit of a kid had already jumped through the rift. Cut to our main guy, smoothly sliding into a rift. He flexed that the teleport 0% hurt this time, and his fit survived perfectly. Juno hit him with the lore, explaining that normal gear without rift energy literally gets wiped during transit. But their drip survived the jump flawlessly, since it was crafted straight out of rare monster loot. Glancing around, Park looked totally lost and asked what the heck was floating right in front of them. Juno broke it down. That was a gate, one of several keys to all 38 zones. Right on cue, the thing literally popped out of existence, spooking them both. Park was like, "Bro, where did our exit go?" His partner replied that the warp only respawns after they fully clear the zone. Our boy chimed in, wondering if they actually had to wipe the entire map clean. Juno shook his head, saying they just needed to snipe the main boss. Cracking his knuckles, our guy promised a total speedrun. Juno yelled at him to hold up, but our dude completely ignored him and just fully sent it into the wild. Juno was left standing there completely stunned, wondering if this absolute madman was the legend everyone was hyping up. Moving like that, the kid could easily shatter the level 1 speedrun record. But then, a massive red flag hit him. Neither of them had radar skills, meaning finding the exit point before the timer ran out would be insanely impossible. Getting trapped meant they would literally get deleted with the zone. Meanwhile, the camera snaps back to the captain holding his scanner. The exact rift our hero took had just snapped shut, leaving the boss absolutely raging. Back inside the zone, a few mobs were just chilling until one got absolutely yeeted across the room by a massive hit. Checking out the aftermath, Park smirked and noticed the beasts drop some super sick loot. He started ripping out their cores. Kinda salty he only got one single blood gem from 3 kills. Honestly though, securing that level up was his main goal anyway. From a distance, Juno was silently spectating Park's whole rampage, completely mind-blown by his insane kill count. A minute later, the sidekick popped his radar skill just to ping where our crazy hero dashed off to. Park was scrolling through his system menu, realizing his 102 points could bag him 2 skills. He totally snagged beast taming first. Right then, a duo of beasts rushed him hard. Spotting the aggro, He just locked them down and utterly clapped them. A crisp system prompt popped up, flashing a brand new trophy unlock. Then a massive glitch warning spammed his vision about a data sync crash. Park just stared, super confused about what was breaking down. Boom, the screen flashed that he officially hit level 2. He hyped up as his base stats got a totally sweet boost. Dropping another solid 100 points, he instantly unlocked a plant spirit skill. The interface immediately pinged to confirm the purchase. He instantly cast the summon. A sick glowing aura flooded the zone, and this trippy neon green ghost popped out. Park tripped out, realizing it was that exact same entity. Back in the jungle, he honestly thought the thing was just a random glowing bug. He quickly ordered his new leafy buddy to go scout for those hidden goblins. The ghost zipped off to follow his command. Park noted how the pet literally downloads memories straight from the forest into his brain. Still, the lag was pretty brutal, making him guess his rookie rank was totally bottling the download speed. He pulled up his stats and skills to see what he was working with. He spotted 2 new skills, search and track. He grabbed both of them to level up his game. Pressing his hand against the dirt, he fired up his search skill, using the spot as a baseline. Firing up tracking next, he got a crazy alert the goblins were already wiped out. Startled, he glanced sideways. Figuring this wasn't your average goblin mess, he bolted over there, completely shocked by the scene. That kid from before was getting wrecked by a totally new monster. Park shouted, "Dude, what are you doing?" The kid grinned, totally stoked he was back. Park raised an eyebrow. Didn't he literally just say he wanted to solo this? The kid admitted he was actually the prey here and desperately pleaded for a save. Without missing a beat, Park dashed at the beast and totally blocked its strike. He snapped back into stance and within seconds, slammed the creature hard against a boulder. The monster was bleeding out, but Park didn't hesitate. He launched himself into the air and went for the kill. A system pop-up announced he leveled up and scored 120 achievement points. The kid watching was just blown away by his moves. Park figured the exit gate had to be open by now, and the kid nodded, saying he was spot on. A bit later, they finally stepped out of the portal, right under the stairs of that earlier crew. One guy recognized him as the dude who nabbed that bounty target before, mentioning Captain Kong wanted a heads up if he showed up again. Scrolling through some data, the guy couldn't help but wonder how insanely fast they cleared that dungeon. Meanwhile, the kid said he had to bounce and link back up with his squad, promising to text him later. Park gave a nod, mentioning he'd drop his gear off at the warehouse. Cut straight to that spot. Park swapped his fit and was complaining about starving when some random guy popped up, asking if he was Park. He asked who the guy was. The dude introduced himself as Kong, captain of the 27th Combat Squad for the guild. He asked for a quick chat. Fast forward a bit, and the two of them were deep in conversation. Park straight up asked if he repped the Sheila Guild. The captain tried recruiting him, pitching a sick training setup, but Park just hit him with a flat hard pass. Getting annoyed, the guy asked what his deal was, turning down a massive guild offer without a second thought. He pressed that if Park was already signed somewhere else, they could easily make an official buyout offer. Park just shrugged, saying he was flying solo. Kong argued they might be ranked 4th, but the top guilds were basically tied in power anyway. Park shot back that taking orders from a boss just wasn't his vibe. Time skipped forward. Park was chilling back at his place, noticing the others still weren't home. Flopping onto his bed, he figured they were probably just having some wholesome father-son bonding time. A minute later, his grandma walked in, roasting his generation for totally wasting the day away. He told her to take a seat since the weather was prime for napping. She completely rejected the idea, saying laundry was waiting. Watching his grandma handle all those chores alone made him feel bad, so he got up to help out. His grandma suddenly looked over and asked if he was seriously Juno's older brother. He nodded, confirming it. She then brought up how crazy it was that Benjamin was staying over. Park gently corrected her. Actually, it was the reverse. She brushed it off, joking that with weird monsters trashing the world, looking younger was totally normal. She mentioned hearing a rumor that it had been 10 whole years since he last hung out with his bro. She really hoped he would keep his life together and not crush their family's feelings ever again. Hearing that, Park flashed a grin and told her to chill. He was way too stubborn to die easily. Just then, his brother and nephew walked in and said, "Hey." Park handed the guy a paper slip, leaving him totally confused. Park explained it was cash to cover his debts, telling him to use it to finally fix his life. He told him to go clear his loans immediately so they could grab dinner together later. Getting all emotional, his bro asked how to ever repay him. Park told him to stop being cheesy and just leave. Crying, the guy took off. Park called after him one last time, checking if he had enough spare change for snacks and drinks on the way back. The dude promised he did and swore he'd be back in a flash. Park just stayed outside on the patio babysitting his nephew. Right then, a system window popped up, warning that a target was tailing him and demanding he give it a name. Park was totally stuck on a name for the pup until the kid pitched Baku. Digging the vibe, Park agreed it was a solid choice. Just like that, the dog officially became Baku. A while later, the kid groaned about starving, asking out loud what was taking his dad so long. Spotting his older brother's rig pulling up, Park figured he was finally home and went to say hey. The two of them rushed over, but the mood instantly died when the guy stumbled out, totally drenched in blood, and just dropped. Freaking out, Park tried to piece together what went wrong. Flash forward, we cut to some sketchy night spot. Inside, a bunch of shady dudes were playing poker, with one guy asking if the big brawl kicked off this week. Another dude nodded, mentioning the entire internet was putting their cash on some guy named Miho. He then asked about updates from Horizon, since they took a massive financial hit there previously. Right then, somebody started absolutely hammering on the front door. Annoyed by the racket, the guy barked about the noise while his crew hopped up to check it out. The entrance blew wide open, revealing the dark outline of a dude completely wrecked and bleeding out. Suddenly, a hand snatched the bleeding guy by the hair and yanked him backward. The poker crew just stood there, totally clueless. Death glares shot through the doorway right before all hell broke loose. The gang was completely blindsided, having zero clue what hit them. In a flash, a whole locker and some heavy hardware came flying right at their faces. Total pandemonium sparked as bodies went flying everywhere. The head honcho watched in pure shock while our main guy wiped the floor with his squad instantly. A lackey yelled out, asking if anyone recognized the attacker, and the boss guessed he had to be an awakened. Without missing a beat, our hero literally chucked a desk at the boss. Jumping straight onto the smashed furniture, he asked if the guy was Kim. Pissed off, the boss said yes and barked back, asking who the heck he was. He coldly dropped that he was here to clear Park Junho's tab. The boss called him crazy, asking how an awakened could just jump normal, hard-working guys. He warned the kid that there was no way he was walking out of here. Boom! The loan shark ate a massive backhand. Park snapped, demanding to know why they roughed his brother up just for trying to pay them off. He pointed out they should have just taken the cash from his older brother and let him walk. Park screamed about why they took it way too far with his family. Getting smacked repeatedly, the boss finally started crying for mercy. Our guy just casually asked if he wanted to wipe the dead or catch hands until his final breath. Panicking, the boss instantly promised to clear the tab. Then, Park Suho forced the shady loan shark onto his knees to beg forgiveness from him and Junho. The thugs were forced to promise that moving forward, Junho's slate was completely clean and they were done bothering him. Suho absolutely clowned them, making the gang scream their apology on repeat, turning the volume up every time. He finally gives them a break, dropping one last heavy warning, letting them know that touching his brother again means game over for their crew. Dropping the mic, Suho smoothly bounces from the spot. The head thug just seethed. Once Suho was gone, the guy scrambled to his feet, swearing this turf war was far from over. Plus, he had some serious heavy hitters pulling strings for him. Cut to Captain Kang Minho strolling into a higher-up's office at the Awakener Bureau. Minyuk hyped up a brand new recruit, bragging about the kid's absolute god-tier potential. His crazy fanboy energy actually made the boss laugh, so he decided to check the kid out. The executive boots up the file, only to realize the hyped-up rookie is literally Park Suho, an F-ranked nobody. Minyuk clapped back, claiming that being a totally fresh F-rank who literally just got his powers today made him even more of a beast. He pushed the boss to dig into Suho's digital footprint. The guy tried to pull the data, only to find a massive classified lock on the kid's history. Both of them were totally thrown off, completely baffled as to why a rookie's record was under wraps. Not taking no for an answer, Minyuk told the executive to hack deeper into Suho's past. They bypassed the firewalls and finally saw the guy's insane power levels. After scrolling through his totally wild list of secret achievements, their jaws dropped, trying to figure out how Suho wrecked a monster like Chigwick with zero gear. Minyuk's massive hype was basically 100% justified now. But the official hit the brakes, asking Minyuk if he knew where Suho had been hiding for 10 years. He floated the wild theory that Suho was actually Black Ops. That totally threw Minyuk for a loop, since he never pictured the guy going full undercover spy. The executive warned him to drop the scouting mission immediately, heavily betting that the kid was an active field agent. He admitted he smelled something fishy. The second Minyuk came in, basically foaming at the mouth over some random rookie. Minho finally got why Suho gave zero cares about regular awakened stuff. Shrugging the whole thing off, the duo dipped out to grab some caffeine. While they were getting ready to head out, Minhyuk wondered why a top-tier agent was randomly grinding low-level dungeons, but the dude was totally clueless. Still, he begged him to watch Suho's back. The guy shut him down though, sticking to his earlier excuses. Minhyuk pushed for just a basic weekly update on Suho, arguing you never know when the guy might show some hidden potential. The guy still said no way. Cutting over to Suho, he headed out to visit his older bro, Park Yoonho, at the clinic. Suho rocked up with an absolute feast, leaving Junho wondering why he dropped so much cash on takeout. Suho brushed it off, saying he just wanted to speed up his recovery with some seriously good eats. Post-meal, Suho checked in on his bro, who flexed that he was feeling way better and could finally ditch the head wraps tomorrow. That sparked Junho's memory about Suho's big mercenary licensing test happening the exact same day. Junho really wanted him to ace it so he could snag a spot in a top-tier guild, but Suho wasn't vibing with that idea at all. Imagine the actual king of the jungle playing second fiddle as someone else's minion. Junho offered to scout some solid guilds, but Suho told him to save his breath since he was plotting to start his own squad. Junho was totally stunned, low-key stressing over whether his bro was making a massive mistake. Elsewhere, Jisoo Yang was about to bounce when her boss cornered her, roasting her for slacking and dropping the bomb about 2 fresh portals in her zone. If that soul portal had connected to a bridge, the whole city would have been completely wiped out. Jisoo snapped, asking if the team was seriously that useless without her carrying them. Her boss said sorry but admitted he was getting absolutely grilled by the portal department over the whole mess. Super annoyed, Jisoo asked if he just wanted her to quit to make all the drama disappear. Her boss shut that down, saying he just needed her to lock in because she was totally wasting her insane talent. Jisoo kind of felt that, since she had been super distracted lately. Right then, her boss slid over a direct letter from headquarters. One glance at the paper and Jisoo was instantly triggered. She complained about Command dragging her in for basic stuff instead of letting her actually chill for once. Her boss told her to cool it, reminding her she wasn't the only one getting drafted for this assignment. Jisoo rolled her eyes and turned to ditch the conversation, but her boss yelled out to recruit a ton of rookies since they were critically understaffed. In her mind, though, she planned on instantly failing anyone who looked like they couldn't even throw a punch. Fast forward to exam day, and the hype in the room was crazy with everyone praying they would pass. Honestly, some of these guys had been failing and retaking this thing for actual years. One examinee was literally live streaming the whole setup, begging his chat to hype him up for a guaranteed win. He promised his viewers crazy hunting vlogs if he cleared the test, hitting them with the classic like and subscribe pitch. He even started reading out super chats exactly like your average internet celebrity. Suddenly, the Proctors rolled in, forcing the streamer to cut his broadcast. Meanwhile, a super confused Suho was just staring at the dude's setup. The streamer jumped back, asking if Suho lived under a rock and had never watched a live stream. Suho cluelessly asked who the guy was talking to, which completely pissed the streamer off, making him just ignore Suho entirely. Then Major Kim Yong-soo stepped up, announcing he would be the head honcho running the exams for the next 3 days. He introduced the 21 other judges that everyone would get grouped under, and these guys literally held the power to pass or fail them. The whole crowd instantly got super stressed out. A bunch were crossing their fingers for Captain Park, who was famous for going easy and letting rookies slide. Meanwhile, others were literally praying they wouldn't get stuck with the witch, a brutal judge who flunks over half her class. Right after, the head proctor barked at everyone to queue up behind their designated judge. The sorting kicked off, and our streamer boy Hanongsu caught supervisor number 15, which completely terrified him. Turns out, Park Suho got tossed into the exact same group. They got into formation, and Suho realized their judge was Jisoo. The blonde baddie spotted him right back. After that intense stare down, the recruits were ordered to hit the locker rooms. Some guys were hyped about scoring chill judges while others were raging. But everyone was just relieved they dodged Jisoo. Plus, everyone was completely blown away by how insanely futuristic the training campus looked. The locker room looked straight out of a mixed martial arts cage match, and Han Dong-soo felt totally crushed. He practically swore to his chat that acing this test would be a breeze. Now that he got stuck with her as his proctor, he was pretty sure he would be packing his bags by morning. Catching on to his gloomy vibe, Suho strolled over. He asked the guy why he was sulking when he was literally just hyping himself up a second ago. Clearly ticked off by how clueless he was acting, Dong-soo snapped back, sarcastically asking if he was expected to start dancing. Suho honestly could not figure out why the dude was acting so salty. Dong-soo then questioned if he had zero clue about how terrifying Soo-young could be. People straight up call her the witch for a reason. Rumor has it she flunks kids for the smallest mistakes depending on whatever mood she wakes up in. She is completely merciless. Suho honestly did not see the big deal, figuring that if someone bombs a test, it is on them for slacking off, not the examiner's fault. That comment completely set Dong-soo off, making him write Suho off as just some arrogant, clueless newbie. So, he snapped at him to show some respect to his seniors. He demanded to know why Suho felt the need to disagree with literally every single word he said. Without even blinking, Suho fired back that if it bothered him so much, he needed to quit crying about it and settle things in a real fight. Besides, he already had the perfect spot in mind for them to throw down. This pushed Dong-soo right over the edge, screaming to know if he looked like some easy target. Without missing a beat, Suho flat out told him yes. Absolutely fuming now, Dong-soo shot up to his feet and ordered the guy to follow him, totally ready to settle the score with his fists. A few minutes later, Chi-Soo-yang walked into the room only to find it completely deserted. Pissed off, she wondered where on earth all her students ran off to. Cut over to the training area, where the entire class was crowded around to watch these two go at it. The hardcore octagon setup had everyone kind of freaking out, so they kept begging the guys to wrap the brawl up fast. Seriously, if the teachers busted them, the whole class would get an automatic 0. Then again, they were probably doomed to fail anyway, so whatever. Both guys squared up, with Dong-soo totally trash talking about how stepping into the ring with him was a massive mistake. He smirked and asked if the name Kaboom Dong-soo meant anything to him. He bragged about being this insanely hyped boxing content creator blowing up on YouTube. Completely lost, Suho asked what on earth a YouTuber even was. That was the final straw for Dong-soo, who decided he needed to beat some sense into the kid. The rest of the crowd hyped up Dong-soo, cheering for him to absolutely wreck the clueless guy. Kicking things off, Dong-soo closed the distance while firing off a series of lightning-fast jabs. He taunted that putting arrogant punks in their place was his favorite hobby, warning him that he absolutely would not be covering his medical bills. Winding up for a brutal cross, he warned his opponent to bite down hard. But right before the fist could make contact, Cho Soo-young crashed the party. That froze Dong-soo right in his tracks, while the rest of the terrified audience literally sprinted back to their classroom. Glaring at them, she demanded to know if getting kicked out on day 1 was their ultimate goal here. Dong-soo instantly panicked and started making excuses, but she cut him off, stating she only needed a single scapegoat. Totally lost, he asked what she was getting at. She bluntly dropped the bomb that the loser gets expelled, so they better finish their match. Dong-soo stared in pure shock, suddenly realizing exactly why everyone called her insane. While the streamer was still trying to process things, Suho simply slipped right back into his fighting stance. Seeing that, the other guy shook off his nerves and squared up again. He warned his opponent not to take things personally since he totally asked for this beatdown. Suho actually offered up a preemptive apology for what was about to happen. Completely enraged, Dong-soo unleashed a heavy right hook, screaming that this punch was sending him packing. But the kid effortlessly slipped past the wild swing and punished him with a devastating uppercut straight to the jaw. The impact instantly planted the guy face first into the mat, out cold. The Proctor just stood there, completely blown away by what she just saw. It suddenly clicked for her that this kid was the exact reason she had been feeling so on edge ever since she first laid eyes on him. Getting that weird vibe was totally standard when dealing with anomalies. Breaking the silence, Suho walked over and asked why she was staring off into space. He casually asked if she wanted a piece of him next, telling her to step into the octagon if she was down. His only demand was that she let the knocked out guy pass if he won. That caught her totally off guard, making her call the kid an absolute lunatic. Tossing her weapon to the side, she stepped right into the ring to give him what he wanted. Once inside, she questioned if he was actually an anomaly, leaving the boy looking super confused. Without waiting, she sprinted at him, yelling that she would explain everything if he survived. She opened up with a furious combo of strikes, but he smoothly pivoted around and deflected every single one. Stepping it up, she shifted into overdrive and launched a vicious knee strike that forced him to lock his arms in a defensive guard. That split second gave her the perfect opening to reset her stance. Smirking, she promised him a bonus wish if he won, right before landing a crazy acrobatic kick flush against his body. The massive impact completely launched him into the air, but something felt super off to her, like he was definitely holding back. Mid-air, he snagged the chain link fence, dodging any serious damage. He admits she packs way more of a punch than he imagined. She's totally shook he actually held his ground. Skipping the small talk, she launches right back into attack mode. Booting him off the fence, she follows up with a brutal axe kick aimed straight for the dirt. He barely dodges, but once standing, he's forced into a tight guard while she unleashes an absolute hurricane of strikes. Getting cocky, she goes for a flashy spin kick, totally exposing herself. He instantly counters, driving a massive hook right into her gut. That blow hits so hard it shatters her protective aura entirely, knocking her flying backward. She's absolutely stunned, but the guy hasn't even hit his peak yet. Excited to finally go on the offensive, his insane power basically screams that he's definitely not normal. Right before he can strike, she totally kills the vibe by throwing in the towel. Super bummed out, he demands to know why she'd quit right when things were getting spicy. She claims the arena is way too cramped for her real moves, preferring to finish their beef later somewhere outside. Accepting defeat, she asks about his extra demand. He fires back, wondering if any other girls around here pack her kind of power. She highly doubts it. Hearing that, he basically claims her on the spot, boldly asking her to create an ultimate bloodline together. Furious and totally flustered, she smacks him across the face before storming off. Waking up just in time to witness the slap, Donggu is mad, confused. Standing up, reality hits he was literally one-shotted. He gets super salty, realizing he basically flushed his entry cash down the drain. Glaring at our guy, he snaps, asking if getting him kicked out of the tournament felt good. Brushing it off, the guy tells him to chill since his spot is completely safe. Upstairs, the big boss is absolutely mind-blown watching her lose on the cams. Back downstairs, Donggu demands answers about still being in the game. He smirks, explaining he totally sweet-talked her into giving them a passing grade anyway. Dongsu immediately questions the aggressive face smack he just witnessed, begging for the tea. Told to drop the subject, Dongsu incorrectly assumes his new buddy took that brutal hit just to keep him from getting booted. Suddenly seeing him as an absolute legend, massive respect levels are instantly unlocked. He quickly turns into a total fanboy, shadowing his every move and calling him boss. Heading out, the intercom blares, summoning our guy straight to the main boss's room. Inside, the boss wants to interrogate him, but drops a quick warning that the mics are definitely hot. The boss man admits he caught all the crazy action from that recent brawl. He's openly tripped up over how some random dude totally wrecked a high-tier pro. He directly asks if he's an anomaly. Shrugging, the teen mentions hearing that buzzword twice today without having a single clue what it means. Realizing the kid is completely out of the loop, the boss gets why he's clueless. So, he steps up to drop some major lore. Basically, magical gates link Earth to 3 alien worlds. World number 1 is pure fantasy, think elves, dwarves, and heavy spellcasting. We've always been super tight with them, swapping cool tech and cultural vibes for ages. Anyone visiting there usually returns completely leveled up in sorcery and mystical combat tricks. World number 2 is an absolute war zone where beastly factions constantly clash over ultimate turf control. One side actually rocks with humanity, while the other faction is pure nightmare fuel. The third spot is literally the worst. It's totally overrun by psycho orcs and wild beasts. They constantly target our world, so whenever their gates open, it's instant apocalyptic chaos. Humans surviving those crazy dimensions and making it back alive earn that anomaly title. They brag way higher stats than your basic gifted fighters, putting them in an elite tier. Soaking up this wild lore, the teen casually drops that he isn't from any of those places. The boss guesses he's just a dungeon survivor, then instantly scraps the thought a bottom-tier rookie couldn't crush a pro. Totally baffled, the guy demands to know exactly which crazy dimension he actually survived. Sighing, the kid mentions he already spilled the tea to the bald medic, but agrees for an encore. He casually explains chilling on a hardcore wolf planet for thousands of years. Hearing that utterly insane backstory leaves the boss speechless. He kicks Suho out of the room, totally convinced that his wild backstory is absolute nonsense. Right after, Sergeant Kim Sang-shik rolls in on the boss's orders to officially take over as supervisor number 15. Sang-shik is super confused since Su-young already has that specific gig covered. The boss drops a bomb that Su-young straight up bailed, completely dodging Sang-shik's questions about why. He simply commands him to step up and keep a hyper-focused eye on Park Soo-ho, calling him total VIP status. Fast forward to the next day, everyone's called out to the training field for exams and told to group up by supervisor. Suho's squad immediately notices their instructor got swapped out and start gossiping if Su-young got the boot. Sergeant Kim Sang-shik does a quick intro to the squad and lays down the insane rules to pass. They gotta smash a 100-meter sprint in under 9 seconds, plus crush a massive 4-event fitness gauntlet inside 60 minutes. Everyone freaks out because not all powers give you crazy physical buffs, but they literally have no other choice. A heavier girl kicks things off, but ends up clocking 13 seconds on the 100-meter sprint. She gets instantly disqualified, though she loudly complains that healers should totally get a separate set of rules. Shik brutally claps back that monsters literally do not care if you heal. Next up to the plate is Dong-su. He is completely cocky about it, while the rest are dreading hitting that 9-second mark, let alone the marathon event. Even so, Dong-soo smirks at Suho and promises he will see him in the next phase. True to his word, he absolutely blitzes the dash in 8 seconds flat. Then it is Suho's turn to step up. Sang-shik whips out his camera right as Suho blurs past the 100-meter mark, dropping absolutely everyone's jaws. Sang-shik frantically speed dials the big boss to hype up Suho's absolutely insane physical stats. He hypes up the totally mind-blowing results and shoots over the video clip as absolute proof. The boss watches it and asks if the paparazzi caught it. Sang-shik confirms the media is already going absolutely wild. Cameras are flashing and blogs are popping off, prompting the boss to call the Awakeners bureau chief, Kim Miso. He begs her to check out Suho's footage, and Kim Miso is left completely shook by the entire video. Another guy chimes in that supervisor Kim Yong-soo's lie detector powers proved Suho was 100% truthful during his entire psych evaluation with Dr. Kim Yong-guk. This totally blindsides Kim Miso, who originally threw out the doctor's reports before realizing they were legit all along. This supposedly delusional F-tier is actually a crazy strong irregular hitting power levels matching at least a solid B-tier ranker, meaning his wild tales of coming from a hidden, uncharted fourth planet are absolutely factual. Panicking, Kim Miso orders her assistant to scrub this from the internet and block all media coverage instantly. But her assistant just shows her the screen, proving they are way too late to stop the viral wave of news. She completely freaks out, demanding a total media blackout and having every single article ripped down immediately. Meanwhile, the press was practically swarming Suho for selfies and quotes, while he was literally just trying to grab lunch. Our boy was just super confused about why he was suddenly trending so hard. Back at headquarters, Kim Miso theorized if Suho somehow kept his maxed out stats despite crossing the portal bridge with zero safety gear. His scuffed dimensional energy levels totally tanked his initial baseline score back then. Plus, the Bureau's tier system was glitching heavily around that time, meaning they definitely just misranked him. But if the T is completely true, and Suho actually bounced back from an uncharted fourth planet, Kim Miso realizes this is massive for South Korea, giving them a crazy head start on exploring this new world. Cut back to the cafeteria. Security finally rolls up to block the rabid paparazzi from mobbing Park Suho. This gave him breathing room to head indoors, even as cameras kept aggressively flashing in his face. The indoor crowd was super confused by the hype until they realized Suho literally broke the physics engine on his exam. Suho was busy inhaling a massive mountain of food while Dong-soo just watched him like a total fanboy. Dong-soo felt so validated knowing he didn't get one-shotted by some random nobody, but an actual absolute beast. He was kicking himself for not streaming their epic fight, right as Suho caught him staring. Suho called him out, asking if he was done stuffing his face, so Dong-soo awkwardly offered to fetch him water. Just watching the guy casually consume 5 people's worth of calories told Dong-soo he was just built different. He knew for a fact Suho was heading straight to the top. After lunch, they hit the locker room where Suho completely crashes. Glancing around the deserted locker room, Dong-soo instantly knew the rest of their squad had totally bombed the exam. This was a massive disaster since it meant their upcoming challenge and actual dungeon raid would be a total nightmare. Since it's a group mission, squads rolling deep with players obviously hold a massive edge. But Suho just brushes it off, insisting they're perfectly fine solo. That crazy confidence totally throws Dong-soo, but he argues that this situation is completely different. Sure, the guy is insanely overpowered, but dungeons are wild cards. Having extra eyes watching their backs would be way safer. Suho just tells him to chill out, pivoting the chat to whatever app Dong-soo was scrolling through earlier. Dong-soo casually mentions he was watching YouTube, expecting it to be obvious. But Suho's blank stare leaves him speechless. Mind blown, he straight up asks the dude if he's been living under a rock his whole life. Unironically, Suho completely agrees with that description. Stunned, Dong-soo pulls up the app to explain the influencer gig. He brags about having thousands of regular viewers tuning into his content. Suddenly, Suho spots a much bigger channel pulling millions of hits. Dong-soo explains it's a mukbang stream, and that eating content absolutely pops off online. Glued to the screen, Suho can't believe the insane amount of food the streamer is downing, which is hilarious to Dong-soo, considering his new friend eats like a literal black hole anyway. Still, he completely makes the guy's day by offering to hook him up with some real-life eating streamers for a collab broadcast. Suho is totally hyped to just gorge himself. Meanwhile, Dong-soo realizes this dude is basically built to go viral. Got the looks, super shredded, already blowing up the news cycle, plus a legendary sports background. Plus, top-tier guilds are definitely going to be spamming his DMs the second these exams wrap up. Right then, Suho randomly drops that he thinks Dong-soo is pretty chill and genuinely likes his vibe. Out of nowhere, he invites him to his crew. Dong-soo is flabbergasted, especially hearing this overpowered guy wants to start from scratch instead of joining the big leagues. But honestly, this could be the ultimate glow-up for his channel. Vlogging the birth of a brand new squad and streaming live monster hunts? That's peak content. Plus, hanging with the class valedictorian is a massive flex. This brings up some heavy flashbacks for Dong-soo. Growing up broke, throwing punches was his only ticket out. But sadly, pro circuits kept rejecting him despite his endless grind. Even then, he stayed grinding. That is, until the catastrophic event absolutely crushed his dreams. He dreamed of fame, but his crew warned him that throwing hands wouldn't pay the bills in this crazy new apocalyptic world. It was either fight superpowered monsters or pivot to MMA. Hearing about online streaming, he decided to chase that bag instead. His buddies doubted him, claiming the influencer life is brutal and demands insanely original concepts to actually pop off. Now, the universe was literally handing him the cheat code. Teaming up here meant infinite viral potential. No hesitation, he instantly signs on, swearing absolute loyalty to whatever his new boss wants. That definitely puts a smile on Suho's face, though his main priority is still locking down that promised massive food collab. Tearing up over his lucky break, the streamer agrees. Soon after, he points out a huge catch. Official squads require at least 3 players. That briefly stresses out the powerhouse, right before a literal holy man casually strolls into their space. Introducing himself as Myung-jin, he reveals he's the newest draft for Squad 15. A combat-ready monk totally threw them off, yet here we are. Suddenly, the intercom blares, ordering all recruits to gear up in combat armor and report to the main hall immediately. The streamer is totally baffled. Weren't the monster hunts supposed to kick off tomorrow instead of pitch black midnight? Myung-jin chimes in, dropping rumors that instructors can totally trigger random night ops whenever they feel like it. Following orders, the trio marches down to catch the lead instructor's briefing on their upcoming battle. The mission? Clearing a rank 1 zone over in Seoul's 5th district, a turf currently run by the Phoenix crew. Curious, our boy asks for context. His buddy explains that while Phoenix isn't elite top 12 status, they still pack a heavy punch. Confused about the whole territory thing, Suho questions what claiming a zone actually entails. Turns out, when Monster Gates started popping off nationwide, politicians got way too overwhelmed trying to police everything. So, they sliced the capital into zones, outsourcing defense to local fighters. Those private armies eventually rebranded into massive guilds. In exchange for guarding the gates, these factions basically own the turf and farm all the sweet interdimensional magic lying around. Over time, groups holding megaportals completely leveled up in power, since the global market treats that raw magic like pure gold. Suho figures these spots are basically government-sanctioned hunting playgrounds for big guilds. Dong-soo nods. Honestly, Suho only wanted a clan to recreate those wild wolfpack hunting days. But hearing he could actually score some real estate, that completely hypes him up. So he totally claims guild status as their ultimate goal. Dong-soo just sweats, reminding him they still gotta pass this stupid test first. The big boss supervisor flashes some dungeon pics on screen, calling the place a total maze. He mentions the dimensional energy here is super weak, meaning bottom-tier monsters. The loot will be trash, which sucks, but the grind is crucial for noobs. Dong-soo gets that the beasts aren't the real threat here. The absolute nightmare is definitely going to be navigating that crazy labyrinth. He practically begs the universe for a search skill, but Suho casually drops that he's already got one. Dong-soo's jaw hits the floor. Nobody bags a $30,000 ability before even snagging their merc license. He instantly suspects his buddy is secretly some insanely rich trust fund kid. While chatting, Dong-soo turns to the monk, Myung-jin, asking what kind of sick awakener move he's packing. The monk suddenly looks super awkward, totally zoning out instead of answering. Myung-jin's mind flashes back to his old life at the temple. Just a regular guy chanting mantras from dawn till dusk. Then the nightmare dropped. A massive beast led an entire mob of monsters straight onto their sacred turf. It didn't take long for the horde to smash their way into the sanctuary itself. Completely clueless, he was still deep in prayer until a buddy sprinted in, screaming at him to grab the high priest and run. He was totally bewildered, freezing up just as a creature leaped in and ripped his friend apart. That brutal flashback still eats at him constantly, keeping him pretty tightly zipped up about the past. The raid briefing wraps up, leaving Dong-soo convinced the quiet monk is an absolute weirdo. Wrapping things up, the big boss orders the trainees to finally move out into the zone. They'll be tackling this run as squads, shadowed closely by their assigned pro mentors. He yells at them to skim the guidebook one last time while walking so they don't screw up. Dropping a quick good luck, he sends them onto buses toward the site while security choppers circle above. The main boss barks at the whole crew to hustle off the transport. Annoyed by their snail pace, he screams for speed. Over on the side, Proctor Kim Sang-shik tells Team 15 to gear up. Sang-shik warns them flat out. Once inside, pretend he's a ghost and figure it out together. Personal performance is everything here. Because even if the squad survives, trash solo points mean an instant fail. Sweating bullets, Dong-soo whines that their three-man group is insanely tiny. Hoping for a carry, he begs Sang-shik to pitch in, but the guy just straight up ignores him and points ahead. Walking out, Suho teases Dong-soo for being a total chicken, though he weakly denies it. Then Suho casually checks if they can bring their own gear into the zone. Mongjin nods, already gripping his own blade. Dong-soo is totally floored that this guy packed crazy custom dimensional gear before even going pro. At the same time, Team 14 vanishes inside, meaning it's finally Team 15's turn to cross through gate 175. Sang-shik pushes them forward, plunging Team 15 into the darkness, with Suho strutting confidently up front. Watching him casually play the alpha dog made Dong-soo cringe a little. He tries warning Suho to lock down the area instead of wandering, but practically shouts it by accident. Instant regret hits that rookie mistake is 100% going to tank his grade. He was supposed to sneak in, secure a base camp, and definitely not scream like an idiot to attract aggro. Right on cue, a beast zeroes in on the racket and lunges straight for Suho's blind spot. Not that it matters, because Suho completely wrecks the thing without breaking a sweat. He literally just snatches its skull and body slams it, shattering it to pieces instantly. First kill secured. Of course, Dong-soo immediately tries taking credit for the assist. He smooth-talks it, claiming his loud baiting strat worked flawlessly to trap it. Rolling their eyes, the squad keeps moving. Pretty soon after, Dong-soo checks if Suho is actually using his tracking vibes while walking. Like, one slip-up means massive drama. Naturally, he totally jinxes it, and Suho straight up steps on the wrong tile. The vibe shifts instantly, and before Dong-soo can even scream about a trap, an insane shower of arrows drops on them. Everyone is totally panicked, but Mongjin steps up like a total boss, getting his gear ready to go. Right then, his brain flashes back to the absolute worst day of his life. He remembers this massive beast totally trashing everything while his buddy fought like crazy against the smaller creeps in the chaos. Meanwhile, Mongjin was literally struggling to evacuate the head priest. But the guilt was eating him alive, basically convincing himself that the whole disaster was entirely his own doing. Funneling all that past rage, the dude just goes off, unleashing his crazy full moon tornado move with his pole. He smashes every single incoming arrow to bits. Dong-soo watches this and quickly realizes the monk is absolutely cracked at fighting. But their bad luck is totally unhinged as somebody triggers another messed up trap right after. The ground literally just opens up beneath their feet, dumping the whole squad straight into the lower level. Everyone is totally freaking out on the way down before the ceiling straight up seals itself back, trapping them completely. Hitting the bottom is rough. Park Suho and the monk stick the landing perfectly without a single scratch, though. Poor Dong-soo totally wipes out flat on his spine, moaning loudly that their current situation is literally complete garbage right now. He is straight up having an existential crisis about his goals being totally crushed. But his whining basically rings the dinner bell for nearby creeps. He realizes they just pulled some serious heat onto themselves. Mongjin drops the bomb that his special move is just a massive area taunt, so he is basically useless here. Dong-soo is totally floored by this info. But Suho is actually super hyped, saying it completely saves him the hassle of hunting the mobs down. The monk is weirded out by his chill vibe. But seconds later, the guy flexes his insane agility and totally drop-kicks the literal ceiling of the crazy cave. He totally busts through, giving himself a super easy path back up to the top. Then he casually invites the monk to join his squad because he definitely passes the vibe check. Suddenly, he feels a huge mob of enemies charging at him super fast. Catching on quick, he pops his radar to track their exact location. He just rushes them head-on for a crazy jump scare. Dong-soo is literally stressing out of his mind, thinking they are super dead this time. But the monk, who literally pole vaulted his way back to the main floor, totally helps Dong-soo out by hoisting him up with it. The dude eagerly accepts and acts like this was completely part of his mastermind plan anyway. When those two finally catch up with Suho, they walk straight into an absolute bloodbath of destroyed beasts. The guy had soloed everything, leaving the other two entirely shook. While casually styling on the next wave, Suho just yells at them to finish off the low-health enemies quickly. They instantly follow his lead and start swinging. Within seconds, the trio absolutely wipes the floor with every single creep. The main Proctor, Kim Sang-shik, watches this completely baffled, guessing Suho is just hacking the traps with his radar to breeze through. And get this, he figures out Suho is literally weaponizing the crazy traps against the mobs to win. But out of nowhere, a random creep tries to backstab him while he is totally distracted. The monk totally skewers the thing with his pole, saving our boy the extra hassle. Dong-soo hypes him up for the assist, while Suho clears out the final trash mobs looking super fresh. Back at the admin hub, the crew gets a crazy ping that a squad is already out of the zone. Everyone completely drops their jaws because it has only been like 30 minutes for a challenge that normally takes 5 hours. The boss man demands to know who it is, and they pull up Team 15. Knowing that is Park Soo-ho's crazy crew, the boss immediately hits up Kim Sang-shik on the direct line. He is basically demanding answers on why these kids are tapping out so insanely fast. Sang-shik just casually drops that they already cleared the whole thing, leaving the guy speechless. The Proctor fully admits you cannot really scale their true personal stats and abilities based entirely on such a noob-level raid, but he promises that watching the replay will prove Park Soo-ho is an absolute menace. Plus, the dude just casually shattered the absolute speedrun record for finishing the entire cave system. Fast forward to tomorrow, city vibes were totally normal when Dong-soo randomly went live. He hit broadcast to hype up the official day 1 kickoff for the fresh out the oven squad. Chat spammed asking what the plan was, so he hyped up an epic crib tour to kick things off. First stop on the vlog was their main base. Basically just this super chill traditional style dorm. He baited chat by hyping up their gorgeous personal chef, who actually turned out to be an elderly lady. He told her to say hi to stream, but she was absolutely not having it. She told him to bounce because she was slammed, literally threatening to turn his guts into today's soup special with her kitchen knives. Her roasting literally gave him psychic damage. Also chilling in the background were the boss's brother and his little nephew. Chat was losing it over her savage energy, but our guy quickly pivoted to the next segment. Chat spotted this random Buddha statue in the background and asked who brought it. Our host spilled that it belonged to their resident monk, Mung Jin, the absolute goat when it comes to staff combat styles. Panning into the next room, he caught the boys grabbing grub. They instantly told the streamer to pull up a chair and chill. Instead of eating, he put the spotlight on the monk, asking for a quick intro. The dude was totally caught off guard, but said what's up, dropping some heavy lore about losing everything to the monster raids. Still, he refused to quit and kept swinging back. Flexing this epic ancestral weapon, he promised a massive comeback. But before he could finish monologuing, their ride literally pulled up outside. So the trio just cut the dramatic scene short and hopped right into the pickup. While riding, the leader spots a swarm of flying cams and casually asks if he needs to smash them out of the sky right now. Our streamer was literally shook that his bro lived under a rock, explaining they were just standard automated recording tech. Cruising down the road, he updated chat that they were rolling to Gate 4. Pointing the lens at this massive glowing blue wall, he hyped up the squad's very first official raid as literal history in the making. Wrapping up the intro, the guy reminded chat about his wild superpower, literal photographic video memory. He promised a fire edit would drop later. Then the boys stepped inside the zone, and the live feed immediately clicked right back on. The boss was super confused about the massive swarm, until his buddy reminded him they literally queued for a bat cave. With thousands of creepy wings flapping everywhere, our camera guy panicked and asked if his leader had any crazy sniper moves to clear the lobby fast. That was a hard no from the boss, leaving the streamer totally stressing out over how they were supposed to survive. But their favorite monk just smiled, hinting he had a secret weapon ready. Out of nowhere, he queues up temple tracks and spits ancient mantras, triggering a massive area attack. Everyone was totally shook when the flying rats started glitching out hard. The cameraman obviously made sure stream got a perfect angle. With the chanting going strong, the entire swarm randomly clumped up, literally forming a massive aerial tornado. The mob instantly locked onto the monk and dive-bombed. Naturally, our vlogger framed it like an absolute cinematic boss fight. You had these feral beasts charging with zero chill, while our guy casually readied his stick to clap back hard. Right before impact, he started helicoptering his weapon, spawning a literal fiery tornado that instantly vaporized the entire wave right there. Chat was losing their minds over the insane clip. Then, the final boss dropped in, this absolutely massive, raging nightmare bat. But the big bad got absolutely folded in seconds when the leader hit it with his signature blade swipe, splitting it cleanly. Just like that, it was a quick good game. and the comment section was basically throwing a massive party. Back at the agency, Miso was literally sighing over her monitor. Her sidekick updated her that this crew, operating out of Zone 4, was speedrunning everything with zero effort. They basically averaged 20 full clears every day. Farming every basic tier zone in the neighborhood, they broke crazy records. Miso scrolled through the viral upload, stressing over the insane view counts it pulled. His sub count hit 68,000. The agent complained about trying to shadow ban the guy's crazy stats, only to have his vlogger bestie completely trash her whole covert operation. Her helper chimed in that clips of this guy were already sitting comfortably at number 3 on the national trending page. Ignoring it would just make the hype train go faster. The boss lady looked super stressed, admitting she already knew they were cooked. Suddenly, a different thumbnail grabbed her attention. It was that Russian dude Michelle Yorvis calling out the global champ, Japan's superstar Okita, right on the timeline. Then she clicked a clip showing that exact fighter using his broken ultimate punch to instantly delete some player named Horizon. Yorvis doesn't stop there, straight up challenging Japan's absolute top-tier champ, Okita, declaring him the next target. Kim Miso freaks out a bit, stressing over Okita Hero and that crazy double S-tier Korean powerhouse, Leong Woo. She's super paranoid the government might panic, playing the protecting talent card and sparking another Leong Woo disaster. Completely stressed, she finally decides to make a move. Ordering her assistant to hit up Park Zoo-ho, she promises to handle this completely in person. Cut to the Suho crew's HQ, where Dong-soo is stressing over insane grocery prices for basic kimbap, asking if Mong Jin totally ghosted work today. Suho's bro, Park Jun-ho, confirms the guy is a no-show, leaving Suho totally clueless. He literally asks where Mong Jin went since the dude is templeless, but Jin-ho drops that he's currently crashing in Seoul with his surviving temple fam. So yeah, he's occupied. Dong-soo is totally raging though, since losing their monk absolutely tanks their farming speed. Park Jun-ho chimes in, telling Suho they should seriously chill today since they're already stacked with enough points to upgrade. He flexes that their squad bagged $120,000 in barely 3 days. Dong-soo is shook, asking Junho if hitting rank 2 zones is actually possible, getting a solid yep in return. Han Dong-soo is hyped. He banked $17,000 over 3 days, literally just picking up shiny blood crystals. But plotting a raid on tier 2 zones next? He's already calculating how to milk this for crazy subscriber donations. Suho glances at Dong-soo, immediately reading his stats. F tier, level 3 content creator. Suho hoarded above 30,000 achievement points, blowing them on wild new abilities, which is why he's accidentally reading everyone's useless personal stats now. Suho announces a full rest day, hyping everyone up. Junho plans on spending the downtime hanging with his boy. He's dragging Gunwoo and Grandma Lee Sukja to some local park. Strangely, Suho realizes he literally cannot read Junho's stats. Same blind spot happens with Lee Sukja, though he totally spies the puppy Beku sitting at level 1 with 3 combat power. It honestly gets Suho thinking, can actual animals catch crazy awakening powers like us? He turns to Junho, pointing out the dude has been doing some intense mechanic work on his rig recently. Junho looks miserable, complaining that hunting down spare parts is brutal enough, but doing the actual repairs is driving him insane. Catching his vibe, Suho casually suggests they just drop cash on a brand new ride today. Junho absolutely loses his mind, asking if it's a prank. Suho confirms it's real, adding they're totally dragging Baku along. Hitting the dealership, the salesman flexes the Kondai Drago XG7000, basically an absolute beast of a machine. Junho is instantly obsessed since this monster is supposedly engineered specifically for hardcore mercs. The Kondai Dragon line is literally top-tier wishlist material. The dealer reveals it runs entirely on blood crystals instead of boring gas. Plus, it only runs a cool $68,000, making it insanely budget-friendly compared to rival models. Suho checks if his bro approves, and Junho is completely starstruck. So Suho straight up buys it. He drops the cash right there, letting them cruise the fresh wheels homeward. Driving back, Junho literally won't shut up about how incredibly smooth the handling feels. An absolute glow-up from his old junker. Though, he questions Suho about heading toward Seoul's 4th sector 23rd gate, since it's totally off-limits. Suho totally knows, but he reminds Junho about his old excuse, being too broke to trigger his awakening. Well, Suho decided today is the day. Junho is completely floored and super hesitant, but Suho is absolutely locked in. Rolling up to the spot, things get weird. Beku immediately tweaks out, growling and catching some seriously bad vibes. Suho claims he and Baku can both sniff out this nasty stench, betting his life it's a goblin infestation. That seriously creeps Junho out. He complains about the sketchy energy and begs to just bail. But Zuho just tells him to chill inside the cab with Beku while he handles business. Popping the door, he disappears into the shady zone. Over at some sketchy debt collector office, shady guys are binging Dongsu's streams, hardcore locking their sights onto Suho. They really want to erase him, but totally recognize the dude is an absolute anomaly. He's way too overpowered. Throwing random hired muscle at him would literally do 0 damage. Still, they refuse to let his crazy antics slide and start plotting a way to shut him down permanently. So they check out the guilds they're backing over in Seoul's Sector 4, hoping to find a solid option. Then it hits one of them. Sector 4 means Manager Choi is on deck. The other dude gets hyped because Choi is absolutely built different. Taking down a single target, total cakewalk for him, though his fee is definitely gonna cost an arm and a leg. I mean, the guy once flatlined 6 dudes for them. He tells his bro to hit up Choi and order a hit on Park Soo-ho. He literally doesn't care about the price tag. Meanwhile, a massive downpour starts raging outside. Granny Sukiya was rushing back, suddenly stressing over her clothes drying outside in the crazy weather. Right then, this slick ride pulls up. Kim Miso steps out and says hey to the old lady. She starts asking around because she's dying to meet Park Soo-ho. Cut to the 23rd gate. Park Junho is losing his mind after waiting over 30 minutes. And his brother was still completely MIA. The vibe was seriously terrifying, and Beku was barking his head off. Suddenly, a literal goblin jumps at the windshield. Junho freaks out, but the monster gets slammed down before things get messy. Turns out it was Suho flexing. He opens the door, signaling the kid and the dog to step out. Junho hesitates but drags himself out anyway. Staring at that bruised up monster seriously sends shivers down Junho's spine. But his brother just hands him a blade, telling him to catch up once he kills the thing. Junho is absolutely paralyzed by the thought. He doesn't have the guts and begs to back out, but Suho isn't taking no for an answer. Junho cries out, asking why he even needs superpowers. Suho bluntly replies that weaklings just end up dead out here. Then, Suho commands the furious Baiku to attack. The dog charges in without a second thought and clamps down hard. Even beaten half to death, the monster overpowers the pup, tightly gripping its skull. Suho points out the dog is way too small for this fight. He yells at Junho to stab the freak before it crushes Baiku. Junho is basically bawling and completely frozen until Suho screams at him to move. Meanwhile, the creature was literally starting to chew on the poor puppy. Junho snaps. He plunges the blade into the monster, sending blood spraying everywhere and freeing the dog. But Suho orders him to keep slashing until it stops breathing. Crying, Junho brutally hacks away until he accidentally drops his weapon. Gasping for air, he stares at his palms, completely drenched in red. The sight completely messes with his head. Suho barks at him to grab the blade again, but Junho sobs that he's just not built for murder. His brother ruthlessly warns him, fight or die. Right on cue, Junho spots another ugly beast creeping toward him and Baiku. Terrified, Junho freezes, but Suho just tells him to slaughter the thing and hurry up, literally walking off on him. That exact move gives Junho serious flashbacks. Back in high school, toxic kids would constantly trash and jump him, while his own brother would casually stroll right past. The bullies laughed in his face as he screamed for help. Yet, just like today, Suho never gave him a single glance. That awful memory, paired with the monster stalking closer, forces Junho to snatch up his weapon. He braces himself, finally realizing his bro is never coming to save him. He aggressively shanks the beast before it reaches him. He drives the steel through its jaw straight into its brain, wildly piercing it over and over while screaming at it to die. Straddling the creature, he violently caves its skull in. The rush totally unlocks something dark inside him, leaving him chuckling uncontrollably while drenched in gore. Out of nowhere, a third monster tackles him hard, pinning him flat on his back. It goes in for a fatal chomp, but Junho isn't playing the victim anymore. Using pure adrenaline, he slices its throat open. After finishing the kill, he trails behind his brother with his dog by his side. He starts laughing like an absolute psycho, complaining about the gross, sticky monster guts coating his fingers. He questions why his sibling acts so ruthlessly instead of helping. Suho just stares back. Suddenly, a system pop-up reveals Junho has officially awakened as a level 1 butcher. Suho actually thinks it's hilarious, asking if he secretly chops meat on the weekends. Getting a no, he invites Junho to massacre the massive horde waiting behind them. Afterward, Suho drags his completely blood-soaked brother straight to the hunter headquarters. The front desk lady is absolutely traumatized by their appearance. Suho casually drops that the kid just unlocked his powers. Horrified, She begs them to hit the showers immediately. Once they're scrubbed clean, they'll have to pass a strict biohazard check. Once that's wrapped up, they head up to floor 3 for their dimensional energy exams. On their way to wash up, Junho wonders what that front desk lady actually meant by getting measured. Suho breaks it down. A machine scans your aura and gives out a score. You gotta hit at least 100 then you can tackle the Mercenary exam. Suho casually mentions he scored a 96. Basically, he totally bombed it at first. Junho is mind blown that someone like Suho could actually fail an energy check. Freshly showered, they hit the testing room where the staff tells Junho to hop onto the scanner. He chills there until the scan finishes, then gets pointed straight toward the ability awakening room. The doc checks if Suho wants another shot at the energy exam, and our guy totally agrees. He hops on the device, but suddenly starts tripping out with some super creepy hallucinations. Creepy eyes stare him down while a system prompt warns that some sketchy unknown entity is tracking his data. Freaked out, he snaps awake just as his score spikes to 189. Seeing those numbers, the doc admits the rumors about his insane power scaling were dead on. He's easily an E-ranker now. Still rattled by that vision, Suho demands to know who built this weird tech. The doc shrugs it off on government scientists, leaving Suho spiraling into some deep conspiracies. Junho finishes up and scores his official Awakener badge. Plus, he gets hooked up with a free smartphone for passing. The desk clerk confirms he's greenlit for the Merc exams. The bros head out, and Suho asks if Junho felt any sketchy vibes during the scan. Junho completely missed it, proving he definitely lacks his brother's intense sensory radar. When asked about his new powers, Junho casually drops that he's an executioner class now. Suddenly, Suho spots Choi Soo-young hanging with her crew, calls her Blondie, and strides over. Her squad gets totally defensive until they realize they're actually glaring at Park Soo-ho. He says sorry for acting so savage earlier, confessing he's still struggling to act like a normal human. She totally curves him, snapping that she doesn't want his apologies and hopes they literally never cross paths again. As she storms off, her squad starts whispering if she just curved him or is secretly playing hard to get. Meanwhile, she's low-key fuming, trying to figure out why his random apology annoyed her so much. Her crew keeps shipping them and making up wild theories, forcing her to aggressively shut them down. Back there, Suho is just standing around confused, figuring out this girl is way too high maintenance. Cut to his clan's dorms, where Granny Sukiya is throwing back drinks with Kim Miso. That strawberry booze is hitting Miso perfectly, and Granny is seriously impressed by the younger girl's insane tolerance. Granny drops that her late husband actually brewed this stash 10 years back. Sadly, he died before ever tasting it. Miso instantly trashes the monsters for that, earning Granny's respect. Miso loves the snacks pairing perfectly with the drinks, but she's really just killing time waiting for Suho. Finally, the brothers show up. Gunwoo rushes over instantly, desperate to see his dad and their dog Beku. Miso greets Suho, though he completely blanks on who she actually is. Once they sit down, it clicks she's the boss of the Awakeners Bureau. Naturally, he's wondering why she tracked him down. She cuts straight to the chase. She wants to negotiate a major deal. She calls guys like him irregulars since he survived a crazy red portal, which he just nods along to. Just walking out of there alive is a massive flex, proving he ticked off some insane hidden conditions. He follows her logic, but is totally lost on what her actual point is. The shocker? A gateway connecting back to his old nightmare realm is opening soon, and it's spawning right on top of him. The Bureau officially dubbed that hardcore dimension he survived as the 4th planet. This makes South Korea the only spot holding access to it. Suho immediately wonders if his old Wolfgang will be there. He demands to know the exact timeline. Miso drops the bomb. It opens in 99 days, so he is absolutely forbidden from leaving the country. He's super confused about being grounded, but she admits they just can't risk a repeat of the Lee Sung-woo disaster. Suho is totally clueless, so she breaks it down for him. She reveals top-tier Awakener Okita Hiro is actually Lee Sung-woo, born in Korea. Back during the massive disaster, authorities locked up all anomalies, claiming it was for their safety. Nobody really understood these guys yet. Even as a low D-tier anomaly, Lee still smashed his way out. Feeling totally betrayed by his homeland, he jumped at a sweet relocation deal from Japan. Thanks to his move, the gateway to Hades literally popped open on Japanese soil. Dimensional energy brings in massive cash. Losing that gateway stung Korea badly, and they refused to lose Suho too. Catching on quickly, our guy straight up asks about his payout. She basically says the sky is the limit. His first demand? Upgrading his crew to an official guild with premium headquarters. Eavesdropping nearby, Han Dong-soo thinks the dude has lost his mind. Miso doesn't even blink, promising to draft it up. But our boy isn't finished yet. He asks if there are any warning vibes before a gateway completely tears open. Miso tells him to chill, vowing to dispatch their absolute top operative as his personal guide. Meanwhile, at headquarters, Soo-young gets flashbacks to his wildly inappropriate hookup comments and her crushing defeat. Seething with rage, she destroys a punching bag, low-key wishing she dragged his butt to court. Miso walks in asking about the creep, but gets zero response. She then assigns her a brand new field mission. Soo-young is super confused at first, but once she reads the assignment briefing, she absolutely loses it. She demands to know why she is stuck with this gig. Miso keeps it blunt. It is because she is simply their elite tier. A gateway bursting mid-city would equal total apocalypse. Soo-young totally agrees, basically calling it an instant ticket to the underworld. That is exactly why Miso needs her watching out for even the tiniest dimensional crack. Her job? Grab Suho at the first red flag and bolt to safety, meaning she literally has to shadow him 24/7. Miso super stressed the around-the-clock part. Soo-young hates the idea, feeling like quitting is a way better option. Cut over to the crew's main crash pad. Junho is hardcore spiraling from guilt, hearing crazy voices until Gunwoo yells at him for dinner, snapping him back. While the boys are chowing down together, Dong-soo drops the news. They are legit registered now, unlocking access to Tier 2 danger zones. Junho is seriously hesitating, feeling they need way more practice and better stats first. Plus, their roster is looking pretty thin for Tier 2. Dong-soo hears him, but claims Suho will easily carry them. Suho actually hits the brakes, wanting to grind the starter zones longer to farm cash and XP. When they finally get buffed up, they can split into strike teams and recruit extra muscle. Dong-soo is totally down for that plan. Suddenly, Mayoung-jin rolls up to grab some grub too. A bit later, the quad hits the toad zone to grind out some easy stats. Turns out, another squad is pulling up to the exact same spot. That is where Jang Jae notices our boy and shouts out. Checking in, our guy says what is up and asks about his normal crew, which instantly kills the vibe. He questions why Jik is running with randoms, but the temp squad rushes him, forcing a quick goodbye. The boys ask about the random dude, and Suho mentions they crossed paths during an old raid. The crew finally steps inside to clear the zone, but right as they enter, some creepy dude is grinning from the shadows. Over with Jik's temp squad, they gossip about not recognizing the legend until they realized it was actually Park Soo-ho. Jik is feeling super awkward though. He was way too embarrassed to confess his actual squad fell apart. Two core guys pieced out claiming they needed a mental health break, ending everything. Guilds usually crumble the second their heavy hitters dip. Registering a Tier 0 team is fast, but breaking it is faster. His old squad simply cracked under the insane pressure and constant deaths around them. They hit their breaking point and bailed. Honestly, they will probably never step foot in a raid again. Solo players always end up merging with random temp squads to run raids. It is literally their only option. Hanging with this crowd, Jang Jae-sik is low-key, hoping a few of them end up as his permanent squad. So instead of just chilling, he's basically treating this era as his epic comeback. Meanwhile, we cut to Cho Soo-yang totally zooming down the street on her bike. She rings up Kim Miso to let her know that Park Soo-ho is nowhere near the clan's dorms, and that he literally already dipped to hit up a dungeon. Miso hits her back with the exact coordinates to follow. Over at the dungeon, Mong-jin is absolutely wrecking crowds of monsters using his sick new Dragon Dash move. Apparently, he unlocked it by grinding through a skill book he copped using his hard-earned clan payouts. Meanwhile, Park Junho is out there absolutely carrying the battlefield. He's not just Suho's little bro anymore. He literally just awakened and finally bagged his own squad role. Rocking that executioner skill, he goes totally feral in combat, a massive switch up from his usual chill vibe. Han Dong-soo also scored a brand new ability from the book, and it's straight up called tracking. It basically gives him wall hacks to scan the whole zone. He flexes it right away by warning Junho about a beast sneaking up behind him. Junho spots the creep and literally slices it clean in half with his signature butchering attack. Dong-soo was honestly kinda shook. Seeing the dude actually smiling while doing it, he was clearly loving the chaos. Up on a cliff, Suho was just watching the whole thing unfold, super proud of how his crew was completely dominating. Meanwhile, some guy in J6's squad lobs an explosive at the horde. But obviously, it backfires, blasting his own teammates and leaving them totally wrecked. Jik caught some of the blast and was beyond salty about the dude's terrible explosive aim. He glances around only to realize half his squad is literally getting eaten alive by the swarm. That's when it hits him. This party is a total flop. Thinking back to Suho's crazy lineup, he honestly can't help but feel super jealous. Still, he gets back on his feet to fight, knowing a god-tier squad like that wouldn't even look twice at an E-rank sword guy like himself. Over on the flip side, Suho's group totally wrapped up their dungeon run. Dong-Su brags about how they totally speedran it this time, pointing out he isn't even sweating yet. Myungjin is hyped too, finally realizing how insanely overpowered that skill book was. Suho then drops the idea to split up and grind their stats even more. Right then, they bump into that exact same creeper who was spying on them earlier. The dude introduces himself as Choi Mong-woo from the DGB guild. Han Dong-Su is instantly shook, knowing DGB is straight up level 5 tier. They literally own the gate the squad just cleared and rank easily among the nation's top 20 powerhouses. So he's standing there wondering why these heavy hitters want anything to do with them. Choi Mong-woo claims his guild has been watching, and they're super stoked to see such a cracked rookie team rising up nearby. Hoping to become allies, the guy literally drops a crazy gift, totally free entry into their private level 2 raid zone. Han Dong-Su is mind blown since getting into a level 2 zone usually costs a massive $10,000. Mong-woo tells them to jump right in, but Junho is acting kinda sus about it, worrying they aren't geared up for that yet. The dude brushes it off, saying it's all good since they've already prepped all the gear and mapped out a solid raid strategy for them. Hearing that sweet deal, Suho tells his crew to stick to the beginner zone for practice while he goes to solo the level 2-1, since it's just faster. The squad agrees, and that sketchy dude totally gives a wicked smirk. After that, he casually tells Suho to hop into his ride. While driving, the guy makes some calls to clear their way into gate 47. Suho notices the area looks super dead and actually calls him out on it. The driver plays it cool, saying the gate is basically brand new, and they're just giving his crew VIP early access. Suho questions why this guy is literally doing the most just to hook them up, and the dude claims it's just good public relations to have them visit their gates. But Suho straight up replies he prefers sticking to local zones. They finally pull up to the location. Another guy tosses Suho a duffel bag, claiming it's packed with emergency supplies and the promised battle guide. Grabbing the loot, Suho steps right into the energy rift. Behind him, that dude flashes another super evil grin. Out of nowhere, Cho Soo-young completely drifts in on her motorcycle. She jumps off and instantly demands to know if Park Soo-ho just walked in there. Mong-woo nods and is like, "Who even are you?" Wasting zero time, Soo-young claims she's in his guild and dives in right after him. The guy just cracks up, basically telling her to knock herself out. The wild part? Mong-woo set this whole trap up for a sick $2 million bounty just to wipe Soo-ho out. His sidekick couldn't wrap his head around why the payout was so massive for something that wasn't a strict hit job. But the stakes were way higher here. Honestly, with stats like Soo-ho's, he was planning to tax them $4 million. Meanwhile, inside the gate, Soo-yang was getting absolutely crushed by the intense spatial pressure. She totally tried linking up with Soo-ho at the beginner dungeons earlier on, but as bro mentioned, he already bounced to the other zone. Soo-young literally sprinted over and spilled the tea to Kim Miso. Miso just told her to sneak inside and tail him. Soo-young was super annoyed though, like, what is she even supposed to do dropping into a tier 2 raid? Miso insisted she had to crash it, spy on Suho's actual fighting skills, and text back every single detail. Soo-young kept whining about rocking literally zero gear, but Miso was super quick to bring up her special bracelet. Soo-young honestly wasn't trying to wreck her outfit, but the second they offered twice the cash, she totally caved. Suho finally steps into the dungeon, instantly catching some seriously sketchy vibes. Out of nowhere, a totally exposed Soo-yang grabs his back, screaming at him not to peek. She was absolutely fuming and demanded 3 times her original cut. She finally heads in, tapping her ID tag to instantly swap into a way better fit. Catching him staring straight at her completely set her off, though he was honestly just hyper-fixated on how her bracelet doubled as a portable stash. Soo-young grills him on exactly how much he actually peeped. Suho totally brings up how she caught him in his birthday suit when he first returned, making them square. But she's quick to clap back that she absolutely didn't want to see that anyway. Right after, he straight up asks if she showed up just to throw hands. She spills that Kim Miso actually deployed her to spy on his skills and report everything. He just smirks, bringing up how Miso swore she'd send her absolute top operative. She completely brags about being the ultimate elite, though he totally doubts that claim. She absolutely loses it over his shade, but he basically tells her to stay completely out of his way while he trashes the beasts. Right then, she screams about a threat sneaking up on his blind spot. He whips around and spots a massive orc beast charging right at him. While she's frantically pointing it out, he quickly scans the whole area. She drops the lore, calling it an orc warrior and hyping it up as the ultimate boss for this tier. She complains about their awful luck running into it so fast. That's when he casually drops the bomb that exactly 4 of those freaks are actually closing in. This completely wrecks her mind, since she can't figure out why this insane stuff is popping off in a rank 2 zone. He simply roasts her, asking if she seriously didn't vibe that this wasn't a tier 2 gate the second she stepped through. That glaring slip-up totally made him doubt her whole I am the greatest flex. Feeling super awkward, Su Yang blamed her fancy barrier bracelet for completely blocking her senses. Brushing that off, Suho warns her to step back from his prey, then sprints straight into a full-blown monster brawl. The dude's insane agility leaves Su Yang totally speechless. Worse yet, he absolutely bodies a monster, slamming it down just to snatch up its massive weapon. Wielding that stolen blade, he effortlessly slices right through the enemy mob like butter. Spotting a straggler hanging back, he effortlessly handled the situation by yeeting the weapon perfectly into its skull. Now completely unarmed, he baited a third beast into chasing him, only to pull a massive brain move by swinging on vines to ambush it from behind. Cut to Mongwu, who was currently chatting up the shady clients funding the hit on our boy. Acting super cocky about securing the bag, he demanded they transfer the rest of his cash immediately. He bragged that top-tier S-rank hunters would absolutely perish inside, prompting his clients to demand the actual difficulty tier of this twisted zone. Returning to the action, our guy ruthlessly crushes that third enemy's skull, completely blowing his companion's mind. Suddenly, a 4th beast charges ahead, though our guy literally could not care less. Launching the brute backward with a brutal kick, he instantly skewers it on a massive branch, leaving his partner absolutely starstruck by the epic combo. Since she was basically just spectating the whole time, he tossed over his backpack and ordered her to start looting the shiny drops from his kills. The audacity completely caught her off guard. Sure, he is clearly built different, but statistically speaking, the dude is still a total F-rank rookie. Still, watching his icy, calculated combat style makes you wonder how anyone can butcher monsters so ruthlessly without showing a single shred of remorse. Meanwhile, our guy was just vibing, happily hoarding those oddly heavy crimson gems. Right then, his teammate activated her scanning skills to read the room. Panicking slightly, she warns him that they literally have 0 time for side quests right now. Think about it, dude. Just flatlined 4 tier 2 bosses, yet the exit remains totally sealed shut. Plus, that backpack they handed him literally only held plain rocks. Unbothered, he thought that was an absolute win since it left plenty of room to stash his shiny new loot. But she urgently snaps him to reality, stressing that this is a tier 4 nightmare zone. Anything above that level basically meant certain death, no matter how hard they teamed up. That revelation totally blows Suho's mind. It blew his mind that dude Mongwu totally scammed him into entering a level 4 dungeon by claiming it was only level 2. Plus, the guy literally did it for 0 cost. Su Yang low-key panicked thinking he would snap, but Suho honestly thought this whole setup was a massive win. Honestly, he even planned on treating Myeongwoo to a massive feast once he cleared this place out. Su Yang was totally flabbergasted by his chaotic mindset. Right at that second, she caught an enemy completely ready to jump her. Instead of backing down, she went to draw her sword to wreck it, only to realize she completely forgot her blade back at the motorcycle. That major screw-up literally put her in a totally deadly, worst-case scenario. Thank God Suho casually stepped up and sliced the monster's head right off with his signature blade, totally saving her from a brutal end. He just flexed, telling her to chill out since he is insanely overpowered now, even though he was apparently way more cracked in the past. Hearing he used to be even deadlier left her completely speechless. Suddenly, she caught an insanely creepy vibe in the air. She popped her sensory skill to scout ahead, quickly realizing a massive horde of beasts was rolling up on them. Total disaster incoming. Su Yang frantically yelled that an entire army of those green freaks was rushing their exact spot. This hyped him up immensely since the targets were literally delivering themselves to him without him taking a single step. Normally, he would rely on Maeyong-jin to pull aggression, but here it happened naturally. When the mob dropped in, their sheer power level absolutely stunned her. To make matters wilder, the entire pack was being commanded by a massive high-ranking brute acting as their boss. Even crazier, some were literally mounted on top of giant wolves. Obviously, seeing those beasts got him super pumped, so he rushed them head on. She tried diving into the fray too, but he yelled at her to back off, which she obviously completely ignored. A mounted beast lunged first, but she totally absorbed the hit by activating her shield ability. At the same time, the guy flawlessly slid underneath and sliced up the second mounted enemy. Catching that action, she pulled a basic blade from her stash and slashed an enemy, barely leaving a scratch. She instantly regretted ditching her main weapon, knowing it would have totally annihilated that enemy. Unsurprisingly, he ended up clapping that leftover monster too. From there, he went totally goblin mode, mixing his crazy raw power and insane agility to basically speedrun, clearing out a massive chunk of enemies instantly. But right as he tried to zero in on the next target, the massive head honcho landed a brutally heavy blow on him. The hit absolutely launched him backwards. This totally terrified her because she instantly recognized the boss and knew its insane power scaling. Totally living for the hype, he smirked and asked the raging giant if it was the final boss, while it just glared back with absolute murderous intent. She frantically screamed at him to focus the boss down immediately, so he gripped his blade tight and blitzed straight toward the giant threat. Using his cracked movement speed, he completely styled on the giant's swing, launched himself mid-air, and jammed his blade right into the monster's skull. She confidently assumed that critical hit wrapped up the boss fight, but they were both in for a massive shock. The beast literally tanked the strike like it was nothing and swatted him away. Meanwhile, at the Awakener Bureau, Kim Miso got an urgent ping about some incredibly sketchy anomaly. Her underling reported their system was completely bugging out trying to pinpoint those two Awakeners' exact coordinates. He explained that the radar showed the guy chilling inside a level 1 zone, while her tracking dot was glitching out in a totally different spot entirely. Totally confused by the weird data, she ordered him to deep dive into the system glitch since she absolutely knew the duo had grouped up. Cutting back to the Tier 1 zone, his squad decided to chill for a solid hour before diving back into the grind. Turns out, our main guy totally fumbled and forgot his smartphone chilling on the car seat the whole time. Ironically, her mobile was totally abandoned on her motorcycle directly outside the other combat zone. Obviously, both calls went straight to voicemail. But the tech guy frantically chimed back in, claiming they finally locked onto her exact location. He dropped the bombshell that she was actually inside a massive level 5 portal that just spawned. Hearing that totally short-circuited Kim Miso's brain. In a flash, forcing the girl to tail him into that run against her will felt like the absolute worst call she could have made. Freaking out over why she would enter that tier, she demanded the gate's ownership details, only to discover the infamous DGB guild controlled that specific drop. She immediately barked at her team to pull the gate's login history, aggressively demanding they patch the guild leader through for a very tense chat right now. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, our boy got launched brutally into a stone wall, shattering it and taking massive damage while a whole mob of grunts rushed him, sending her into full panic mode. The overwhelming pressure finally made him realize that this run was not going to be just another easy, casual walkthrough for his channel. Flipping the switch, he locked in, throwing himself at one grunt, and basically using its body as a bowling ball to knock out another dude entirely. Snatching up 2 dropped axes, he perfectly sniped through them across the room, effortlessly deleting a couple more mob characters from the map. Simultaneously, she was busy dodging a massive shower of arrows, sprinting for her life, while absolutely mind-blown that these monsters literally had a ranged sniper division too. Dodging the brutal attacks, she totally eats dirt, leaving her wide open for the ugly monsters charging right at her. Panicking, the girl taps her wrist gear, hurling a massive energy blast straight toward the incoming mob. The explosion instantly deletes a handful of grunts, but the massive boss beast shrugs it off and locks eyes right on her. She is totally trapped until our boy Suho swoops in out of nowhere, snatches her arm, and bolts. She freaks out, but he yells that escaping is their only option. Dodging another massive shower of flying arrows, she screams asking where they could possibly go since they are completely boxed in. He simply points toward a tiny gap ahead. She panics because that is literally a deadly drop-off. Knowing that perfectly well, he scoops her right up into his arms and warns her to brace herself. Without hesitating, the crazy guy literally leaps right into the abyss. A bunch of blind monsters sprint too fast and tumble straight down right beside them. Mid-air, our hero completely controls their crazy descent, shifting his weight so they hit the ground safely despite that absolute insane drop. The girl is totally stunned that she is actually breathing as he gently places her back on her feet, staring way back up at the surviving enemies near the edge. Her mind is completely blown, trying to process how they survived such a terrifying freefall. The duo quickly ducks into a dark cavern, while deafening monster screams echo endlessly outside their hidden spot. Catching her breath, she begs for a strategy. He casually drops that killing just 4 more beasts will trigger his next evolution. Once that happens, wiping out the rest becomes child's play. She sighs hard, arguing that ranking up just removes a basic barrier and definitely does not magically boost raw strength. But he smirks, explaining that dropping those chains is exactly what gives him a massive boost in combat. She gives him a super doubtful yet curious look. Meanwhile, completely outside the gate, Cops, reporters, and medics are flooding the entire zone. News anchors are going crazy live on air, broadcasting the tragic fact that the two teens are trapped inside. His entire family is camped near the entrance, absolutely stressing over their boy. Reporters expose how the shady boss initially lied, claiming the kids happily walked into that nightmare zone, totally knowing the crazy high risks involved. But after facing intense heat, the guy finally confessed to his crimes and got dragged away by cops. Cameras flash and journalists scream endless questions at his face while he does the perp walk. He stays totally silent, brutally regretting that he completely missed the hero's secret ties to the government agency. Over at the agency headquarters, the boss glares at the television as anchors mourn losing such an insane prodigy during this massive magical industrial boom. Right then, an incredibly panicked colleague bursts inside. She practically begs the boss to step up and crush the villains responsible for this mess. He sighs, stating the main culprit is jailed while authorities are actively hunting down the corrupt gang leader. But she demands a full strike against the entire corporate guild, furious that they are using a single scapegoat to dodge all the heat. He firmly shuts her down, arguing that tearing apart a massive Tier 5 organization over one incident is literally impossible. She is visibly disgusted that he is treating this life-or-death crisis so casually. The old man defends himself, pointing out they cannot confirm if the boy is actually a rare alien powerhouse. He might honestly just be a standard survivor. Meanwhile, the broadcast loudly demands stricter monster gate regulations. The boss smirks, realizing this whole tragedy is the perfect chance to squeeze those greedy factions for cash. The guilt totally breaks her since she literally sent the girl inside. Watching her sob, her boss finally softens up and admits his own fears. Still, their hands are completely tied, leaving them praying the tough teen somehow survives this living hell alone. Suddenly, the TV anchor drops a brutal truth bomb, stating survival odds for those two are basically absolute zero. Hearing that shatters her completely, causing her to collapse and weep hysterically for her friend. Deep underground, ugly green giants roam the shadowy halls hunting our duo. Suddenly, a glowing little pixie totally catches the eye of a dumb guard. Annoyed, the massive brute swings at the tiny bug, giving our sneaky guy the ultimate opening to drop from the ceiling and secure an instant kill. One down, just 3 more ugly beasts left to slaughter before triggering that sweet stat boost. Ducking back into the thick brush, his partner activates her special radar skill to ping another nearby enemy. Sprinting blindly at the target, he moves way too fast for his partner to even warn him about a deadly snare. He instantly triggers a massive pressure plate, setting off a brutal defense mechanism that aggressively launches him right backward. That loud crash alerts the target, causing an entire squad of hidden brutes to swarm the area for blood. Things were looking super sketchy. Suho was totally tripped out that he couldn't spot the trap, and his reflexes were lagging hard. Soo-young straight up tells him it's cause he's been starving for 2 solid days. Right before the mobs wrecked him, Soo-young clutch drops a defense bomb, blowing away a bunch of them. But the recoil totally wipes her out, and she drops. Suho totally exploits the opening, snatches a dropped orc axe, and slices 2 warriors' heads clean off. Now he literally just needs 1 more kill to snag that level up, so he dives right back in. But right before the final blow, the Captain Orc crashes the party, slamming Suho backward with a massive club. Soo-young catches this going down and instantly knows this boss guy is the ultimate red flag. But by pure dumb luck, Suho literally crashes right into another mob. His weapon slips, somehow totally decapitating the guy and triggering the level up. This finally unlocks his epic beast mode. He hesitates for a split second. Meanwhile, as the boss corners Soo-young, cut to Granny Sukcha feeding Beku the pup. She thinks it's wild the dog's so hyped despite Suho ghosting for 2 days. But the second Suho triggers beast mode, Beku gets this insane glowing vibe that totally spooks Granny. Back inside, Suho is straight up mutating. Soo-young is sweating trying to hold off the big guy. She gives it her all, but he completely overpowers her, smashing her down and lining up a fatal shot. Right before the kill screen, Suho, now literally looking like a swole, 2-legged Beku, absolutely launches at the boss. Soo-young is totally shook watching this new furry Suho absolutely body the captain, just wrecking him non-stop. But then, he takes it way too far and literally starts eating the monster. Soo-young is super grossed out. When he finishes, Soo-young calls his name, but he straight up barks back. She's completely mind-blown. She thought he was an edgy werewolf, not an overgrown puppy. Outside, the paparazzi are still swarming the gate, reporting absolutely 0 signs of life even after 2 whole days. They score a quick chat with Chief Beck Isu from the bureau. He spills the tea, saying this place is actually a hardcore level 5 zone called Orc's Castle. You'd legit need 30 B rankers or 10 A rankers just to survive it. At this point, even the reporters knew the Bureau was just treating it like a shady cash grab. They were totally milking Suho's tragedy to shake down big guilds, faking outrage over safety issues. It's not like they actually cared about saving anyone. The camera guy was getting crazy bored, whining about how much longer they had to record an empty gate. The reporter tells him to chill, saying it'd go mega viral if they magically made it out alive. The cameraman calls cap on that. Suho isn't some OP hero, he's literally an F ranker. He's already predicting the tragic clickbait headlines. Back at the dorms, the creepy blue energy drops off Beku, and he goes back to being a normal doggo. Granny Sukja is literally too stunned to speak. Inside the zone, Suho pops back to normal. He figures out the skill isn't shapeshifting, but more like borrowing power from a pet he's tamed. Totally a summoner vibe, not a werewolf thing. He looks over and sees Su Yang looking absolutely horrified. He tells her to snap out of it, grab the loot, and find some food. Su Yang thinks it's completely useless, basically calling the place their tomb. They just clap the captain, but the exit is still locked tight. That only means one thing: the nightmare isn't over. Rain suddenly starts dumping down inside the cavern. Suho immediately realizes that big guy definitely wasn't the final boss. Su Yang nods, terrified of what's next. Suho tries to play it cool, joking about how much worse things could possibly get. That exact phrase triggers massive PTSD for Su Yang. She flashes back to when she first hit B rank. She went into a crazy level 5 zone with 19 players, including 10 total tryhard A ranks. She was low HP, but her boyfriend Tahoon was carrying her. Their bestie Kim Miso totally shipped them, pretending to be annoyed by their PDA. Once the raid started, they absolutely shredded the monster waves with some top-tier strats. But even then, one squadmate got isolated and instantly one-tapped. Ignoring her busted leg, Su Yang sprinted to play hero, but totally wiped out. Right as a mob tried to end her, Tahoon swooped in for the clutch save. Then Kim Miso yelled at the raid group to redirect their push. Tahoon and Su Yang followed along, but Su Yang was getting totally weird vibes. It seriously felt like they were being hunted. Her gut feeling was spot on when an absolute beast of an orc jumped them out of nowhere. Su Yang dodged the attack, but her boyfriend Tahoon took a lethal hit right in the monster's kill zone. Even bleeding out, he kept desperately reaching for his blade. Back then, she was completely clueless about why he did that, but now it clicks. He always preached that a true fighter treats their blade like a literal body part. Losing his weapon right then basically felt like his chest was ripped open. Seconds later, that massive monster ran him through, ending everything. Flashing forward to now, replaying that nightmare totally wrecked Su Yang's mental state, leaving her completely crushed. Suho says sorry for being so tone-deaf and pulls her in for a comforting hug. Meanwhile, outside the gate, Han Dong-soo goes live to get everyone praying for Suho, just straight up sobbing on camera. The comment section is going absolutely crazy, blowing Dong-soo away since he's basically never dropped his guard like this before. A little ways off, Kim Miso is bawling her eyes out over Su Yang, completely blaming herself for the whole mess. The news channels were also totally obsessing over this famous spiritual guru, Kim Yosin, who was throwing down a massive ritual, hoping for Su Yang and Suho's safe return. On top of that, elite fighters from the country's most hyped guilds were gearing up to raid the zone and bust them out. One pro mentioned he actually tried recruiting Suho way back, but the guy picked a boring government job instead. He seriously should have rolled with their crew, since the system literally does not care about anyone. Cut to some guy with long hair chilling and watching the broadcast, right as his partner wraps him in a back hug. She asks why he's glued to a Korean channel, and he just smirks, saying nobody does peak emotional drama quite like them. Down in the dungeon, the pair finally take a break to grub. Starving for 2 whole days, they absolutely devour everything in sight. Suho keeps pushing her to eat up, but Su Yang jokes their stash is big enough to launch an entire diner. He asks if she's always this obsessed with eating, and she admits she kinda snapped today by housing 12 burgers already. She claims she's totally stuffed, but Suho dares her to keep going, bragging that he's currently polishing off his 22nd. Smiling, she gives him a massive thanks for having her back. Then, he drops the question, asking if she actually soloed that boss monster after it killed her guy. She shakes her head, admitting she literally passed out cold right when it happened. Sometime later, she woke up in a hospital bed with Kim Miso handing over Tahoon's weapon. That's when she found out the squad finally clapped the boss, but only after 2 high-tier pros got wiped. Honestly, that thing was an absolute menace. It literally packs the punch of 5 elite captains put together. Suho figures that guarantees they're dealing with a boss in here, too. When he asks for its location, she guesses it's probably chilling in the fortress. The only thing she's sure of is that it's nowhere within a 1-kilometer zone around them. She throws in that the captains usually post up in the outer towers, leaving the main boss hoarding the middle one. Word is, the second you breach those gates, thousands of enemies swarm you. Right on cue, one of Suho's little spirit guides pings that she found the fortress. He fills her in on the intel and is totally hyped to crash the place immediately. She asks if he even has a strategy, but his whole vibe is just tracking it down and wiping it off the map. She rolls her eyes at his basic brain, but honestly, she's fresh out of better options. Cut to a massive mob of monsters flooding out of the stronghold, aiming straight for our duo. Watching them pour in, she waits for the perfect second before screaming at him to sprint. Going full beast mode again, he scoops her onto his back and totally books it toward the enemy base. Obviously, the mounted guards zipping past and the snipers up on the walls spot them and instantly trigger their defenses. Catching the cavalry closing in from behind, she yells at him to floor it. A crazy rain of arrows drops from ahead, but she pops her force field skill to tank the entire barrage. The bridge up to the gates was retracting, so she screamed at him to leap for it, and he launched them into the air. They totally clutch it, barely grabbing the ledge. A bunch of mounted chasers try the same jump, but she just drops a shield bomb, blowing them into absolute dust. But yeah, the path forward was still swarming with bad guys. She tells him to ignore the fight and just rush the barrier. Going max speed, he starts straight up running up the brickwork, leaving their pursuers eating dirt. But then, a ton of enemies on the roof literally yeet themselves off the edge to crash into them. It doesn't really hurt, but one of the guys clips her, throwing off her balance and sending her flying off his shoulders. He whips around, totally panicking. She just yells for him to keep pushing forward, promising him she's got this. Soo-young totally clutches up, grabbing a broken brick wall just in time and hauling herself over the edge. Her luck completely runs out when 2 massive orcs corner her. Sensing the bad vibes, she pulls her basic sword to throw down. While she's fighting for her life, Suho is scaling the place like crazy. Up above, that freaky 3-eyed orc boss watches them, totally entertained. Hyped up for some action, the boss leaves his throne to get a closer look at the show. He glances down, absolutely tripping out when he spots Suho scaling the wall in his full dog form. Before the boss can even brace himself, Suho just launches right at him, sinking his teeth in for a massive, vicious bite. The monster is completely caught off guard, bleeding out as Suho just goes feral, aggressively driving him backward. He shoves the guy straight across the entire room, launching him off the edge to get totally skewered on a spiked tower below. Boom, instant level up. The rest of the mob just stares in pure horror as that shattered tower collapses right onto their heads. Falling rubble completely wipes out a massive wave of the monsters, leaving the survivors totally dazed. Right then, a massive explosion rocks Soo-young's floor. She gets blasted off the edge with her attackers, while the other goons scramble to catch them. She straight up thinks it is game over, but Suho, still rocking the dog transformation, leaps into the void and snatches her midair. He even pulls off a sick tuck and roll to absorb the entire impact for her. Wasting literally 0 time, he grabs her and bolts. Totally lost, she yells out, asking what the heck happened to the boss. He casually mentions he wrecked the guy, yelling at her to grip tight before dropping back on all fours to sprint. Once she is secure, she asks if he seriously just soloed the boss. He confirms it, instantly telling her to start scanning for the exit portal. She spots it, realizing the gateway is actually open. Still, her mind is totally blown by how insanely fast he melted the boss. Meanwhile, outside, the DGB guild control room is freaking out over sudden activity from Dungeon 127. The gateway had officially activated, and a brutal countdown timer was already ticking away. The crowd outside was absolutely losing it, especially the Suho crew and Kim Miso, who were practically praying for a miracle. Back in the zone, he asks if she has a visual on the exit. She says yes, dropping the exact coordinates for him. She panics, saying they only have 10 minutes before the thing snaps shut, stressing hard about surviving this insane chase. But instead of rushing, this dude literally takes a side quest to tame some beasts, casually rolling up to a wolf pack and recruiting them. When she asks if he is seriously bringing them to the real world, he just smiles and calls them his new family. With the clock heavily working against them, he hits up his guardian spirit for a play, who immediately drops a sick shortcut route. He sends it, and with just 1 minute left on the timer, the portal comes into view. They are blazing toward it, easily on track to clear it in 25 seconds. But right at the finish line, Some random enemy yeets a spear at them in a desperate attempt to ruin everything. It totally snipes Su Yang, knocking her right off Suho's back with literal seconds left to escape. As the mob swarms in to finish her off, he violently whips around to save her life. But she begs him to just ditch her and run, knowing the clock is practically at 0. Ignoring her completely, he just beams a weapon right through the attacker's skull, scoops her up, and charges the exit once more. With a crazy 8 seconds left, the outside crowd is screaming the countdown. Survival looked impossible, but the news crews were practically begging for a wild clutch moment. The broadcast was pulling over 60% of the entire nation's viewership, making a buzzer-beater survival the ultimate viral moment. Inside, with 4 seconds left, she calls him an idiot for coming back, but he just screams at her to grip tighter. Pushing way past his limits, he hits a completely insane top speed to close the gap. The raw shockwave of his sprint literally blasts monsters out of his path. The timer hits absolute 0 just as they scrape through the threshold. The second the portal snaps shut, a massive detonation nukes the entire instance, completely vaporizing the mob that was hunting them. Back in the real world, though, the two of them are just absolutely nowhere to be seen. Despite a whole country holding its breath, it really looked like they choked. But suddenly, an entire wolf pack casually struts out of the rift, completely confusing everyone. Right after, 2 battered figures holding on for dear life get literally launched out of the gateway, wiping out hard on the concrete. The audience is just completely stunned, trying to process the absolute madness. But when the DGB security team rushes over, they realize it is actually Park Soo-ho and Cho Soo-yang. They genuinely beat the zone and survived. The wolves immediately start singing to the sky while emergency medics scramble to patch up the absolute legends. News channels completely blow up about the epic survival of these 2 hunters after 4 brutal days, making it the biggest trending topic everywhere. Meanwhile, at the Awakeners HQ, Kim Miso flexes wild photos of their buzzer-beater escape to the boss and the squad. The boss totally calls them out on their mid-escape cuddle session, which sparked some minor gossip, but it's nothing crazy just yet. Their actual headache? The whole world just found out exactly how overpowered our boy is. We're talking a Russian operative named Viktor Dob, Israel's very own Eli Gornstein from the Mossad, plus Japan's top dog Koji Nakamura. They all suddenly showed up out of nowhere, completely desperate to recruit Park Soo-ho. Management is seriously stressing over that snake Nakamura, since he's the exact same dude who previously poached Lee Sung-woo right out from under them. Even so, Kim Miso bets the United States is their absolute worst nightmare here. It got the team wondering if basic paperwork was really enough to lock this guy down. One guy points out that our hero is definitely staying put as long as his relatives remain in South Korea. The head honcho doubts if blood actually trumps cash for him, but Baldy fires back, reminding everyone this dude literally hung out with wolves for millennia just from sheer homesickness. Ironically though, now that he finally returned to civilization, he's totally missing his wild pack. The boss wraps it up by calling him super complex, but the bald dude insists he's actually incredibly basic. All he truly cares about is his kin. Just toss him a private crib to chill with them, and he'll be golden. So the director agrees to throw in a massive free house to sweeten the pot. Right on cue, Kim Miso pulls up photos of some deserted cabin out in Namyanggu. The boss looks completely confused and asks what her angle is, so she pitches it as the ultimate private sanctuary for our hero's crew. Her master plan involves heavy security to lock down the perimeter from any random trespassers. On top of that, its remote location means a random portal spawn wouldn't cause mass casualties. The director nods, agreeing it could actually look dope with a little fixing up. He does double-check if Su Yang is still stuck on stalker duty though. Miso insists she's the ultimate pick for the surveillance gig, confirming the scout is still healing up when the boss asks about her recovery. The chief then asks for any juicy updates, and Miso drops the hilarious detail that the operative literally labeled our guy as a quote-unquote feral dog in her files. That weird description leaves the whole room scratching their heads, but they eventually just shrug it off and switch gears. Cut to the underground SPFC arena, where the absolute most hyped title match of the year is about to kick off. Stepping up first is the crowd's ultimate obsession, Okita Hero, the sellout previously known as Lee Sung-woo before he completely switched sides. This dude is the undisputed global king. He's protected his throne an insane 21 times and boasts a flawless record of 45 straight wins here. People literally call him mankind's savior and the most busted fighter breathing. Enter Japan's double S-tier anomaly, Okita Hero. While the fans go absolutely feral, he unsheathes his blade, flooding the entire stadium with this massive wave of dark, suffocating aura. Turns out, This is the exact same edgy guy who was creeping on Suho's news broadcast earlier, while his girlfriend cheers him on from the bleachers. Dropping into the main ring, his weapon's insane energy literally makes him look like a majestic blazing phoenix. Spectators totally thought it would be an instant one-shot. But the challenger wasn't messing around either. Enter the Russian powerhouse, boasting 0 losses and 13 scraps and sitting at rank 32. They call this absolute unit the Brown Bear, Mikhail Horvis. The dude literally shatters the concrete just by stepping into the arena, instantly rushing the champ with 0 hesitation. He tries to end things in seconds by firing off his magical heavy artillery, but our sword guy easily dodges the blast. The big guy keeps spamming shots that actually pierce the champion's shields, yet the swordsman just weaves through the crossfire like an absolute speed demon. Mikhail finally targets him with his massive energy launcher and pulls the trigger. But the champ totally deflects the explosion, throwing a vicious aura slice right back at the bear, who barely blocks it with his firearm. The samurai keeps spamming his dark slashes, forcing his rival into a corner. Suddenly, the Russian catches a weird twitch from his opponent and tries to punish it. He shoots out magical shackles to completely pin the swordsman down, charging up his heavy cannon for the ultimate finishing blow. The challenger totally thought he had it in the bag, completely oblivious to the fact that the champ had already sliced him into ribbons. Out of nowhere, the big guy just erupts, painting the entire arena red as he completely collapses into a massive puddle. The whole stadium is left completely speechless, mostly because the Russian looked like he was winning until that crazy plot twist. Emergency crews sprint out to save the fallen beast, but he is totally unresponsive. The ref instantly calls it, crowning the swordsman the winner. He swaggers out to deafening screams, bagging his 22nd consecutive title defense. His squad greets him at the exit, hyping him up as they head to the locker rooms. Behind closed doors, his crew begs to know what insane hidden move he actually used to drop the Russian giant. Our boy casually confesses that he snuck a tiny bit of his dark aura straight into his rival's veins, triggering a delayed explosion for the ultimate sneak win. Hero gives his squad a massive shout out for their hustle, promising to buy drinks outside. Right then, his girlfriend pulls up. She immediately throws her arms around him, whispering to ask if he finished off Mickey Horva. Okita Hero confesses he had no choice. Mickey was practically fated to join the 7 deadly sins. Even so, she hates seeing him shoulder that burden alone. Hero appreciates the love, then asks if HQ dropped any new intel. She brushes it off, mentioning it was totally quiet except for one quick phone call. When he guesses it was the big boss, she nods, saying the chief just wanted Hero to stay safe. She then nudges him to hurry up since the whole crew is outside waiting. Suddenly, she remembers Park Suho, that dude trapped in a level 5 dungeon. Dropping the bomb that he actually survived leaves Hero totally stunned. She mentions the Korean press is going absolutely crazy, hyping him as the next Lee Sung-woo. Even the Japanese Defense Force is heading to Korea to see if they can strike a deal. Clueless, Hero asks who the heck she means. She reminds him it is the guy from the news. She flashes his picture and drops the name, but Hero still draws a massive blank. He wonders aloud if the guy is that rogue returning swordsman, since that anomaly wasn't scheduled to spawn until next year. Nope. She clarifies he is a druid from an unknown world, hinting Earth might be linking to a 4th planet. That hooks him. She adds the craziest part. The guy is an F-ranker, making his survival completely insane. Hearing that just makes Hero smirk, calling total cap on the whole story. After looping through 500 years and witnessing 25 returns, Hero holds the ultimate spoiler guide. Yet, the name Park Suho isn't anywhere in his head. Sure, he knows messing with the timeline creates ripples, but nothing this massive. Like, taking out Mickey definitely derailed the timeline where the dude joins the 7 deadly sins. Plus, his girlfriend Akko was fated to die 2 years back, and he totally defied destiny there. Altering character fates is one thing, but randomly spawning a 4th planet or unsealing a level 7 dungeon is totally beyond him. That is literally impossible. He knows the next planet isn't supposed to show up for another 5 years.